This is the December 6th quarterly meeting. And like
Can't hear you. Gotta talk louder.
Like I said, you turn up your hearing aid. Like I said, thank you for all of our staff and all of our enrollees down here for coming down and being a part of the meeting today. With that being said, we'll ask for a roll call. Mr. Allen Roa.
Yes, well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. District 1. Here. District 2. Here. District 3.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the Secretary Treasurer is here as well.
Good. We do have a quorum. English. Take a look at the agenda. Anything to add, modify, delete? If not, I'll ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
I got one thing I just want to update this. I figured from community college, travel college, so yeah, Lauren was can't make it here today. So
Since paperwork.
yeah, right here.
Also, they had a Native Nations building course on it too. So that's what people went for that. Anybody else got any deletions, modifications? Kathy?
No.
Raymond?
No.
Alan?
No, Mr. Chairman.
That will ask for approval of the agenda. Motion, Kathy? First. Humbly gives the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Agenda is approved. All right, next we have meeting minutes. There is packages out at the front desk back there. The meeting minutes from September 6th to 2018 to December 6th. Today's date. Take a minute to review those.
On page 2 of 6, it says Eugene asked how it takes so long to get out people in housing. It's supposed to be to get people in the housing, not out.
Yeah. So it's been an ongoing issue at White Earth with the delay in the staff and hiring contractors to get these houses fixed back up. Turns into a real mess for our people. Native Wash alone, I think we have 12 units that are boarded up and have been for almost a year. The other communities, same way. Just the reluctance of our staff to get involved there. We want that those houses open and filled. It turns into equal matter after that, and a lot of these kids are being turned over to ICWA. So we turned up the heat under the director over there and made them start complying and getting these houses ready. Trouble is when they are ready, and then they gotta go through a waiting list. They hit the waiting list and they sit there for another couple months vacant. Somebody busts into them and vandalizes, cuts all the copper out of them, seals the applies. Just repetitive, round and round. So we're looking for a way to shore those things up.
say, do you have something to add? Well, Scott, you're up to you.
All motions approved, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we do have a motion to approve the minutes of 9/07. Yeah, September 6th to December 6th. We have a second.
Second, Chair.
Second by Raymond. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, silence. Any meeting minutes are approved. Good. Elders report. The elders here. Tito never made it.
No, they have a Christmas party today.
Conflicting schedule with our Christmas party up at Minneapolis. Elders Christmas party and Old Indian Day. They all different checks here. So. All right. We'll move on with program updates. Urban Moms Maths program. Like Jerry in the house. Jerry, can you get up and introduce your staff to the rest of the?
So I'd like to introduce first Rachel Turner, who's the manager of our Urban MAT program, and then Frank Johnson Jr. With our Urban Moms program, Christina Williams with our Urban Moms program, Shannon Smith, Sharon Jarina, and Jen Milley. And Shannon represents our mental health program, and we have Sharon and Jen here from our White Earth Substance Abuse Outpatient program. So I think moms, staff wanted to start first because they're the most nervous. Go ahead, guys.
Frank Johnson Jr. I've been the primary nurse at Urban Moms for the last year. So we continue to serve our pregnant women clients and women with young children for opiate addiction. And the services we offer here mirror what we do up north. So we provide substance abuse, mental health, parent helpers, culture, transportation assistance, and case management. We continue to be active in our cultural events. So we are very active in secret healing ceremonies, fasting camps, women's sweats, women's gatherings. We also have been doing a lot of public health education with our moms on top of everything else that we do. So we'll do nutrition, public health nutrition classes, food prevention classes, women's health topics, Narcan education. And over the last year, we've continued to grow. On average, our average number of clients that we've seen over the last year has nearly doubled. So we're definitely growing.
I have a question for you. Have they visited the camp? The homeless campsites?
Yes.
Have we visited the five?
Well, we've had some notes we find in the hand.
Excuse me, can you speak up, please? We're having a hard time hearing
Okay,
all the way back here.
okay, we have been active in the camps. We've provided equipment like tables, to serve off of storage tents. We continue to help out with meals being taken to the camp. We had an outreach worker that was working there. We bring people back to our treatment center that need Rule 25 stuff. And so we're very active and out there, and I did a lot of donations that we brought out there. And so
How many, since you've been working with the encampment, how many people of our people have you brought into the treatment program? How many of our members, White Earth members, have been brought into the program and enrolled and following through?
you know, I don't think we've narrowed it down to White Earth numbers that we should. But, you know, we've probably brought in 12, 14. But the ratio of the Rule 25 assessments that we do and people coming into treatment is kind of tough, like maybe 1 out of 20 respond to treatment. And that may differ now that it's cold and more receptive, but we're out there and we're reaching out.
How long have you been going on nutritional health thing?
For the last year, we've had a couple of classes.
That's
Our latest one was just last month. We had a nutrition class
That's something you just started to do now?
within the last year. Yeah.
Are there any other questions for our Urban Moms program? Then I can introduce Rich LaTurner. He's with our Urban Math program.
Distinctive Chairman, honorable fellow council members, thank you for coming down and being with this urban people. Thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your discernment and the work you do. We know that's on our behalf as well. I stand here very proud that we as a tribe saw people that were dying of the heroin epidemic, and responded in such a huge way. You know, purchased 3 buildings to put all of these people to work, and I'm honored and excited to be part of that program. I'd like to talk about the Urban MAT program, and medically assisted treatment program is what it's called. And the drug we use is called Suboxone. And Suboxone is a medication that helps with cravings, and it really helps people. Methadone used to be kind of the norm, but it no longer is. And what I like about Suboxone is I see people that are getting well, going to school, getting jobs, getting children back. And so I'm excited to see what happens there. We are not just a Suboxone clinic. We provide Suboxone, counseling, culture. Culture is a huge part of our program. Many of our urban people are getting in touch with their culture for the first time in their lives. And it's just been a life-changing thing for them. We have several naming ceremonies. We're part of Cedar Healing and Sweats. And cultural activities, we have an entire cultural calendar that is going. We have outings, or we have Friday nights in 212. You have a women's gathering every month, a men's gathering every month, and then a sobriety feast. So we're very active there. We have challenges. There's Suboxone clinics, cropping up all over, and Suboxone clinics that in our neighborhood. People can walk in, get two weeks worth of Suboxone on their first visit, and we will never be that program. Jerry has given us permission to say we're going to stick to what works. It's not just medication; it's counseling, it's culture. There's no magic pill that takes addiction away. When our people are dealing with trauma, chemical health, mental health, homelessness, they need more than a handout of Suboxone. most of the clients come and dose daily. And again, I think have a great staff as far as welcoming them. And they feel, we know them by name. They feel like this is home for them. Some of them will come in their day off and come in with us. We've determined that we are reaching out to people, our dosing office at 8:30 to 1 o'clock, 1:30. And we figured out that we're missing a group of people that work and go to school, people that just can't make it during the day. So we'll be extending our hours till 6 o'clock, possibly 7, so that we can reach out to those people. We're also thinking about having a group that in the evening if the demand is there. Our program is in the Clifton building, and I think it's exciting. We have Lisa, we have Matt, we have mental health services, we have ICW, we have an ICW lawyer office. And I think it's kind of becoming a one-stop shop where Indian people can come there and get a lot of things done within the building, where we can refer to each other's programs if they're in chemical health and need mental health issues. We have people right in the building. We can bring the mental health professional down to visit with them. The other challenge is getting the word out. We need to do advertising down here. And right now, I'll send some flyers around. We are advertising at bus stops, where it's just a basic advertisement. We found bus stops that are, a lot of Indian traffic goes through these bus stops. And I'll send out what our advertisement looks like. And but we need to do more. We're going to be looking at radio ads. We're looking at a couple of billboards, but nothing is effective with us being out there and talking to our programs, talking to Rule 25 people, counselors, so they know what we have to offer. So partnerships are a key. We have partnerships with different treatment centers and inpatients that do not have Suboxone services. So they bring their people in once a week to pick up Suboxone and to be part of our program. And then many times afterwards, these people come to us after they're done with their inpatient program. So, thank you. Any questions?
How many people do you work with every month?
The MAT program, right now we have 34 clients, dosing clients, but with Rule 25s and all the other services, I can't guess that far more than that.
How long do the individuals stay on the Suboxone, and when do you start making the decision to start weaning them off or helping them so that they're not in need of using Suboxone anymore, using it as a crutch just to keep moving forward because of afraid of feeling withdrawals or something like that?
I'm gonna let Frank answer that. He knows.
Well, so it all depends on where the client is in their recovery. So some clients will choose to taper off more quickly than others, and that's their right as a client. So we really we gauge that based on how their readiness for the taper process.
So what does that look like, your readiness?
What's the average on that?
About 18 months. We've seen an average.
But again, what does it look like as their readiness? I mean, what does that look like?
So how far along they are in their step work. So there's many components to the treatment, not just the medication. So as far as like the substance abuse, like the treatment plan, how they're progressing and how they're functioning in daily life, how they're there's many facets to that treatment plan. And as a person goes through it, they progress. So,
Okay.
Great questions, by the way. Jerry, I think we talked about this when we first came on. I think one of the questions we had to ask the program is, are these the treatment plans? They're medically informed decisions, right? Could you care to elaborate on that discussion we had, that like folks aren't just being handed Suboxone and they're just staying on it indefinitely, like there's actually medical reasons why these folks are being provided this?
Right, so our process is a little bit different from what you see in other medical clinics. Our folks who are administered Suboxone have to meet with their registered nurse every day for 5 minutes minimum. And that's an observed dose every day. So it's different. We want to be, accountable. We want to have that one-on-one with the medical professional daily. Then they have to see their counselor. They have to visit with their CD counselor, and then they have to participate with mental health services as well. So the whole team meets clinically every week and discusses progress of the plan, and where we need to beef up a little bit of help sometimes, or how great people are doing sometimes. And then there's discussions between our doctor who's prescribing, our nurses, our CD counselors with the client to say, are we okay to bump you down 2 milligrams again? And so we try to bump down to 2 milligrams and then taper people down till we're off. But it's a process, and we review that process every single week.
And every situation is unique and different, every client is different.
Absolutely.
Most times when the client is the person that says, I want to taper down, that they're ready to move on.
You have any that say, that's not enough, I want more? Also,
Well, there's times when,
abusing the program also, do you find that happening too?
well, I know that we can do up a dose, but we don't have much chance of having handouts. Like right now, people can go on the street and get Suboxone because there's so many clinics that will give a month's supply out or 2 weeks, and so that it's readily available on the street. In fact, that we're pretty tight with our, and then people need to come in. And, so.
Any other questions for Rich? I'd like to introduce Shannon Smith with our mental health services. Shannon's one of our therapists.
Again, I'm Shannon Smith. So fairly new to mental health services. I've been with White Earth for a year now. The program itself, like specifically mental health, has really only been about a year and maybe 4 months or so, I think. So we're fairly new to providing standalone mental health services. We started off as supporting the LISA and UMAT programs, but we also accept referrals from anyone in the community. So we do not have to be a part of the treatment program in order to utilize mental health services. We do diagnostic assessments, individual therapy, couples therapy, family therapy, and then I do group therapy. I do some trauma-informed mind-body work. I do positivity and parenting, cycle of life, culturally based curriculum. And kind of some of the differences is we've got we've got Grant and Abby that are at the Clifton office that are both mental health. There's a mental health professional and a trainee. And then we also have a mental health case manager, adult. We haven't really jumped into the youth game yet, but hoping to build that here in the near future. And then myself and a intern, Autumn, are over at the Little Earth site. Previous to coming, working for White Earth, I was at Little Earth for 11 or so years, so I have some strong relationships there, and they were willing to give us an office there, and we're continuing to expand services there and hoping to hire a couple more professionals to come and do specific mental health services at Little Earth. We're really kind of in the beginning stages of getting the word out. I think there's some misconceptions that you have to be a part of the treatment programs or in order to get mental health services at Clifton, but it really is open to the broader community. So that's one of our tasks that we've been working on, is how to do some kind of that marketing piece so that folks know that we can do some kind of walk-in or really there's many entry points, and it's a matter of just getting that literature out there where we're doing our brochures. We've been utilizing a lot of the White Earth materials and then just kind of putting our information on it. So we really need to build that from scratch because services look very different down here as compared to up in White Earth itself. So any questions or? Yeah.
So this program just started like in the last year? So how many people do you work with per month and how many do you see out there as being prospects?
That's a good question. We're still developing that. I'm one of the service providers. We don't have a direct supervisor through our mental health supervisor is Candy, who's up north. So there's really just direct service workers down here. I can speak for myself. I get between 40 and 60 contacts a month. I know our other workers are fairly new. So some of that depends on just having access and that kind of thing. But I know we're reaching for that goal where we get at least 40 a month. That's the goal, yeah.
I know that, the mental health services area in our community is very much needed. And then when you're looking at the hiring process, I'm wondering, will you be looking specifically for, Native Americans working with their own people? Because again, and especially for youth, I think it's really needed. But again, it's about, if you're gonna be an arms worker or a skills worker, the top priority is the individual who's receiving it. It's because it's their life. You are helping them make their life. And so when it comes to cultural diversity, cultural differences, they might not be very supportive of the individual who's receiving the services.
That's probably more of a Jerry question on the hiring front, but
Definitely, we have preference, and I think part of the reason why Shannon, and she's gonna be too humble to answer this, but part of the reason why Shannon's really successful and has a huge client base is because of that reason, because she's very culturally knowledgeable, and she integrates culture into her healing, that work that she does, and so that is absolutely the team that Shannon's trying to lead and expand.
I'm glad to hear that we got that now, especially coming from White Earth. It's very much needed in our community.
Any other questions or? Okay, I'd like to introduce Sharon and Jen from our substance abuse program.
Sure. So currently our outpatient program, we serve clients from all locations. But we offer cultural events. We have the sweats, the ceremonies, the men's and women's gatherings. We take them to the Cedar Healing ceremonies, there's language table, and we have somebody who comes in and teaches cultural curriculum to address whatever clients specifically say they want to learn, but as well as whatever he feels is appropriate at the time. We are also doing cultural curriculum with our clients on a daily basis. We offer transportation to our programs. We offer care coordination. So the care coordination is connecting our clients with the services they need, whether it be a treatment program or community resources like where can they go for medical, where can they go for mental health, just connecting them with the resources that they need. And we're always looking to bring new ideas into our program to help with retention. One of the new things we're working on developing is an incentive program to get our clients attendance improved.
Right, and I'm more of a numbers person, so I pulled up like how many clients that we have served. So in the past year, we've served roughly around 60 clients, and out of that, 20 have successfully graduated. For Rule 25 assessments that we have done, was approximately 520 assessments this past year. So we're pretty busy over there. We're always growing. Right now, we have 11 current clients. However, we do have 13 that we're hoping to get in very soon. Our schedule, we have Monday and Tuesday are our lock-in days for Rule 25 assessments. And then Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, we do scheduled appointments. However, if there's time available, we still are able to do those lock-ins if we get them. We also complete assessments out in the prisons and the jails when they're requested. And our groups, they're Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 9:30 to 1 with lunch provided. And Monday and Fridays are set up for their individual counselor one-on-ones.
So Jen, you do 500 Rule 25s, and you get about 10% of that to go into the outpatient treatment program. is there a large percentage of that 500 that are looking for inpatient treatment, that are maybe going other places? And they're not just leaving, but they're actually going on to something else?
Most of the assessments we do end up going to residential, and then after they come back from residential, then they funnel into our program.
Any other questions?
This is just sort of a general question. You folks work with folks that have mental health and health problems. I happen to be a guy that believes that athletics programs and sports keeps people off the streets. You know, it helped me in St. Paul. I grew up playing hockey and played baseball and went on to college and played hockey. The only Indian kid at St. Cloud still left play hockey up there, so I'm in the Hall of Fame because of that. So the point is that all these things, when I give talks, I give talks to kids about, hey, when you get hit in the boards and laying there in the corner, you don't lay there and say, oh, poor me, I'm an Indian, they're picking on me. You get back up and go into the game. And I think that's the kind of stuff, you know, besides all the stuff you're doing, the mental health part of it is the competitive health. Keep the kids off the streets somehow. And I don't know, do you guys have any sports programs down here that you sponsor or get involved with? Do you have any baseball or hockey or football or anything?
We don't have any teams.
See, that's the whole part that you're missing. These kids are just doing nothing down here. I don't know what you're doing up in White Earth about this, but those are the things that are very needed. I mean, kids need something to do. And you need to have them in a team, individual sports or whatever, whether it's tennis or whatever it is, you need to have them doing something. Otherwise, they're going to sit around and do their electronics, or it's all poor me and all this kind of stuff. And that's BS.
Right.
You become what you think about. If you think you can't do it, you can't do it.
A couple of our strong partners have that type of programming at the American Indian Center. They have basketball leagues, volleyball leagues. Little Earth has baseball and basketball. And I agree with you, that it builds character to be on a
And
team.
you got to start young and keep them going, and they'll stick with it.
And we have some great athletes out there.
Jerry? As part of our discussion in regards to the ability to use our behavioral health dollars, are we able to sponsor some of these events?
Absolutely.
Okay, so that we can support those youth activities that are established down here? We can.
So part of our third-party billing dollars can go towards sponsorship of some of those teams. So any of the billing that we do goes into a pot of money. We have to account for that pot of money. It has to go back into health and wellness-related activities. And we have to track all those. So part of what we can spend that money on would be a sponsorship of youth teams.
So if you were to get that together, or a thought, because I know you're all doing, implementing other things and integrating them, would you involve the community to come together in developing a focus group and what would be needed and what, and how you can go forward with it?
I think that's a great idea. You be in charge of that, Rich?
I think Frank has more strength.
Frank. We will, I'll identify that. And then we can post something on the White Earth Facebook page.
I just want to say, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I greatly appreciate all the hard work you guys are doing. I know the people of White Earth, whether they're down here or at home, the work you're doing is essential to the survival of our people, and to survival of our way of life. And if you just continue to do this mission, and you're, as Al was talking about, developing new ways to catch our youth and move our people forward, this is going to make a tremendous difference, not just now, but 20, 30 years from now, because a lot of the kids and families you're dealing with now, the support that you're giving them, and I know you know this, but the support that you're giving them is going to make a difference, is absolutely making a difference. And I believe in my heart that all of you are making a difference. So I just want to thank you. Which.
Jared?
Yep.
I could, one comment, like, at White Earth, how many people have the service?
Oh,
Okay. Yearly twice as high as here.
Oh, yeah. I know Road 25 assessments on the White Earth, we're averaging 1,500 to 1,700 years. 1,500 to 1,700. That's 25 assessments a year.
You know this way.
75 in the town, and about 60 in the suburbs.
So, yeah, so the whole concept of the Suboxone program is $50. The treatment areas was to save lives overall. They're in the middle of a drug epidemic and continue to be, but you can see that it's taking change, it's forcing. We set up the Guanica Men housing project up there, the Dreamcatcher home site down there, and some of the other supportive housings there, they're filled to capacity. People that are tired of their lifestyles are going back in here, going through all of the needed activities. They get a house, they get their families reunified, it takes them back off the street, and, it takes a huge burden off of all of the family's shoulders. I know Jerry, we just initiated a brand new moms and mats building that's being built up there in Natawa area, so we asked for a little update on that, but also we purchased a site south of, or east of White Earth, the Strawberry Lake, former Strawberry Lake retreat, Christian retreat. It's now we call the White Earth
Family treatment center.
Family Treatment Center. So anybody that needs, out-of-home placements or out-of-home care, that facility will be ready for them. It's set up already, we're gonna have to do some remodeling. We had $900,000 from the state legislature to go ahead and make improvements, capital improvements, but we're looking for more funding for that also. So it is an 80-acre facility with a beachfront property on it, and it's gonna be available for sweats, all these cedar ceremonies, all of our ceremonies, language, culture, tradition. That's what's missing in our people's lives, they forget their own trail, where they come from, who they are as Anishinaabe people, and the caring out there, it's just, once that drug gets a hold of them, they just give up on caring and sharing anymore. We used to know everybody in each village there. Now they've got a lot of people that moved in and just out of the blue, they started mixing communities and bang, trouble begins, so, yeah.
Jerry, I got something to ask about the Suboxone program. I know it's helped a lot of women and men, but I kind of don't believe in replacing one drug with another drug. Heroin to Suboxone. Have you guys ever considered maybe hypnosis or anything like that? Have you guys ever looked into that? Or it works for smokers, it works for weight loss, and maybe we could at least explore that somehow, maybe?
Yeah, we can look into hypnosis and other methods. I know that we chose that route of Suboxone because it's the most medically indicated for success rates, and I think we've seen that so far with our programming, with success rates. And I think that it's important to say that, it's a medication, and I don't feel that we're replacing a drug with a drug, but we're replacing it with a medication that helps curb the craving so people can engage in all the rest of their services. And that's what makes it help. It's really not the medication. It just helps stop the heroin use and keep people alive and keep people coming to the door every day.
Hypnosis would probably do that same thing. Person explored and looked into it. Try it once, at least try it once,
We can try it.
So, I'm hearing about, the MATS program up north and all the things you're putting into place and the things that you want to do. Are you also taking in consideration of the little things that are needed, like transportation, childcare, and maybe whatever else is needed up here? Because I know as a single parent down here, that was one of my main barriers, even in Minneapolis, was transportation and childcare if I had small ones. But again, it's like finding ways to be able to support our families till they're able to support themselves and building that strong foundation.
I agree. So up north, we offered childcare, and then also we have drivers and vans. So we replicated that down here, Our MAP program just hired their first driver, I think she just started this week, Rich, Aletha. So we have the van and the driver now. We've been doing Lyft rides everywhere, and it's really expensive to do Lyft, but, so we are offering transportation. And then at the moms program, we have childcare. We've had childcare available there since the program opened doors. We know that's critical. You know, so if we can expand and offer childcare, at the MATS program, that's definitely our goal. We did a renovation, of the Clifton Place building that we bought for the basement. And part of that basement remodel, includes a childcare room. So we hope to be able to offer that too, so it's not a barrier for people to be in treatment.
So do they offer that also up in White Earth for people that are receiving the same types of services as transportation and childcare?
Yeah.
And then will you eventually be thinking or talking about, yeah, the Doves program, right, where moms can go there with their children? Will you be looking at expanding more of that?
That's been,
We've been.
As far as the Dove shelter,
Are more inpatient programming where families can be together?
that's it.
so Dove is the domestic violence shelter we have up
Oh,
north,
okay,
and we
sorry.
don't have that here yet. But, that's Ben's program. What Terry talked about briefly is we're opening the family treatment center. And that is where full families can go together with their kids and be in inpatient treatment. So the Strawberry Lake site that we bought and are renovating right now, we hope to have the doors open there February 1st for whole family treatment center. It's a
Then
new model we're
I
testing.
think I'd like to mention the Oshie Money Group Center up in the Bemidji area. That's owned by White Earth, you know, so it's basically a mom's program right there.
It is, so the,
It's built capacity at all times. But
yeah,
that includes the kids get to stay with the parent there too. So
yeah. So, Women's Will Variety Oshie Manado is a women's treatment facility, and women can go there with their children. And stay there. We have 36 beds there. It's always full. And then we have the men's treatment program too, men's acute care, OGO up north, and that's full of capacity. We have about 19 on the waiting list. So we actually got a larger facility for men's treatment, and we hope to have that renovated in 2019 to be able to house 30 men. And then with our family treatment center too, men are able to go there with their children. So if we have a dad that's involved, let's say with child protection, we can be able to, you know, they'll do that ability to send the kids with the dad and be able to be in that facility. And we see that as it's a need for sure.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. Anybody else got any questions, comments, or concerns?
Hi, I'm Angie Big. So accountability as far as, all right, I'm trying to, okay, so I had a DUI in my early 20s. Okay. And
So did
I don't know, and I had to follow up with classes and talking to someone and watching videos and you know, so I have a friend who had a couple years ago had a DWI at North, and he went to the, you know, to go do the class, and the guy didn't show up to do the class. So they said, well, we'll just sign this form. And so he never got, so he was like, what? Why is, like, what, I'm not gonna learn from this, or, you know, I mean. So I feel like there's no accountability to make sure that these people in these positions are making sure that there's a follow-up and, you know, after they pay their fines and stuff, that they have to take these classes and learn why you shouldn't drink and drive. Exactly, they show in the videos of what happens in crashes, and, you know, so it's in the consequences, and for someone just to write it off saying you were there for class, but there was no class, where's the accountability? And why are we keep putting people in positions like this who have never been in the program, who are like AA, or, you know, you can't just sign a paper, that doesn't help everybody. Just because this guy didn't show up to teach the class, doesn't mean it should have been mandatorily rescheduled, and you have to work at it. And then have that other options on, is it a one-time thing, or are you gonna continue to drink and drive? Well, the success rate, you know, the accountability just has to be there. You have to make sure they're doing their jobs.
I think that's a big part of the program there too also, Jerry, and the follow through and, but we can't let people fall through the cracks. So it's accountability, it's 100%, you know, that we're following. Either for the wellness of the patient, or the billing, so we gotta hold a tight line on the accountability side of it too. So as far as the AA and stuff like that, you know, I think our CE program should have been there also, you know. Anybody else?
So what other things other than drug and alcohol treatment are we going into in this reformation process? What, talk more about like the economic struggles and whatnot. Could you?
Do the travel side or the?
Yeah, we want to hear more about like the chairman's positions. That's such as you. Tell me more about like White Earth economic struggles versus like Boys Fort economic struggles, and like more about like the casinos and stuff. This is what I want to know.
Yeah.
Yes, forgot your name, sir.
Tom.
Tom, yeah, I do have a financial report.
Yeah.
That I'm gonna cover. We talked about the casino.
Cool.
We talked about a lot of the finances.
Okay.
But I would just say for the moment that, you know, our tribes are in a unique position to help with the economic conditions of our people.
Right.
And I would also add that White Earth specifically, now I can't speak for Boys Fort or any of the other bands, but the future is we have to diversify our revenue streams.
Portfolio.
Yeah, our portfolio, exactly. And right now, I would say the two major sources of income for White Earth are the casino, gaming, and the taxes that are returned each year to the band. Now, I would argue that these taxes that are reimbursed to the band from the state of Minnesota, I don't think we should be dependent on that. I think we should be more aggressive with our business strategy. And so, and then in the long-term future for our band members that are out there, whether they're here or there, we got to give them the opportunity to help them start their own businesses.
Right.
And that is the future. That is the absolute future. Right now, we've just become way too dependent on gaming.
Right.
Thank you.
I agree. Thank you.
Gaming is flatlined all the way across Indian country. You're actually seeing declining amounts out there. Some places down here, Mystic Lake or the Mille Lacs lands there, they have the luxury of being right on 35W, you know, in the urban settings. They're the ones that are making the big bucks here, you know. Us, we're 300 miles north, out in rural northern Minnesota, you know, out in long time to travel to get there, you know. So I mean, that's. But it is what it is, you know.
A comment along that line, you know, from the standpoint of business, populations determine business successes many times. If you look at the metro area, the casinos around the metro area, because the population center is down here, that's where you're gonna have the bigger turnouts. And, I mean, it's just natural. You go up to Grand Portage and there's, you know, hardly anybody up there compared to White Earth. That's just the nature of, you know, where the location of the business is. But gaming overall, I mean, we used to do all the gaming shows in America. We helped start all these things around America, and they're going down because there's other things that people are doing, and there's, I know, other opportunities for them to spend their time and their money.
I really like the idea of us building on businesses in our community. but also getting the word out there that, the community has that opportunity and also networking. But one of the things is that I've been, grateful enough to have the opportunity to, attend the Chamber of Commerce annual dinner that recognizes businesses, and yet I hardly see any community members there. I got to go as an elder, and the thing is, I think that might be a start also. We can look at where we can maybe grab some of our people who are just out in the community, maybe going to school or doing other things, that they have opportunities to be exposed to different things like this, like the dinner, so they know also where they can start networking. Not only have a handful of network, but more of a broader network. Because this last time they showed a business, and I apologize, I can't remember their name, but it's all indigenous where they look for people to help them flourish and get started. And it's kind of moving across the states here. Do you remember what it was called, Carl?
Eighth generation.
8 generations, yes. So that right there, if I'm out here in the community, I'm not hearing about it at all. But I happen to be at this dinner and I heard about that. And a young girl from Boys Fort, was it? That she got the opportunity to be able to be a part of this because of her Facebook feeds of her beating. And so that is like a hope right there and another opportunity to send some of our White Earth members to this dinner. So I hope you take that in consideration for next year.
So noted. Anybody else got any comments? If not, we'll move on. But did we cover the urban equipment?
We have that, we're in here.
We were there already. Oh, there's it.
Well, I'm Deb Brewer. I've been in the Bigfoot Urban Office since 2006. Right now, I can tell you what we do. We work with all the outlying counties, including Hennepin, which is the biggest, and we work with them to ensure that Bigfoot is on the supply to answer efforts. We work closely as much as possible with all families to ensure that they stay together, that they get culturally appropriate services. We currently have 4 ICW workers. We have 1 case saved. We've made a tremendous difference. We have about approximately 90 open cases right now in our office.
I think one difference between on-rails that you're used to versus urban is that the counties have jurisdiction here. And so these guys are secondary workers on the cases.
But that doesn't really necessarily make our job easier. I mean, we go into in front of many different judges, different counties. They look at us, they don't like us, and they're disrespectful. And it takes a lot of courage to stand up in front of these people and say what we really believe. So it's difficult to do.
So we are, Jerry and some of the ICW team has approached the tribal council, and they've asked that we come down here. There's a court case going on the 17th, I believe. And so a lot of our tribal councils and tribal members are gonna be there to show support. I got volunteered to be on the stand. And so, but I just want to let folks know that one of our children, if you could, are you tracking that case?
Well, I picked up the worker.
Jerry, could you speak a little bit on that? What's going on with that?
Sure. So we had a White Earth child who was raised by her grandmother till the age of 3. And then went with mom. Mom had some issues with substance abuse. The child was removed from mom's care. And the county did not want to place the child with the grandma and license the grandma for foster care. So our ICWA department has been fighting settling for their grandma. And about a year ago, we were able to get the child successfully placed with grandma, but we have non-native foster parents who continue to fight for her to come back and have filed adoption petitions and trying to take the child from grandma. We have an attorney who's notorious for trying to get rid of ICWA, who's representing the non-native foster parents. And that attorney also was involved in a case in Texas where Texas is finding ICWA unconstitutional. So we've got some really scary things kind of going on right now in Minnesota and nationally that we're tracking and really trying to be diligent about and doing the best work we can. So this Hennepin County case is going to be going to trial starting next week and the week after, and then Alan's going to be doing some, Secretary Treasurer Roy's going to be doing some testimony about political status of our children and trying to protect them. You may see some things in the media about this particular murder case.
Can any of the, I don't know if it's gonna be down here, but can any of our community go just to support, like to sit in the courtroom and just support?
Yes.
I think that's very much needed.
I agree. I think that we need to rally around this issue because we gotta protect our children, we really do. And we gotta protect the rights of our families, especially Indian families. Because it's the same lawyer that was down in Texas, right? That did that case down there. Well, he's trying the same thing up here with one of our kids, a White Earth kid, or one of our babies. So I think we're gonna have to come around this, and I really commend the ICW team for keeping track of this and making everyone aware of it. And whatever we can do to help, certainly we're gonna.
If we wanted to attend this trial or whatever, how would we find out when and where it is?
So we could post it to Facebook if that's okay with our council and post the different dates of testimony.
Do you have your own Facebook page then? I mean, which Facebook page is it gonna go on? Because there's so many out there.
But it's,
Is that a breach of confidentiality?
No.
No?
We would.
If it's an
post
open
names.
trial, I would think
Oh,
so.
okay.
Yeah. And right now, I haven't heard the status. There was a gag order on this case issued by the judge at our request to keep things out of the media. Because this attorney has a habit of going in front of the media and saying, look at these poor foster parents, had this child ripped away from them, things like that. So we asked for a gag order to keep it private, and that was being contested this week. I haven't heard the outcome of that yet. So we'll find out if we can post it on Facebook. But support would definitely be great.
Well, if you can't post it, how are we gonna know where it is?
Yeah, I'll have to try and figure that out.
The old moccasin trail.
Yeah. Okay, so Deb's gonna give out the phone number to the ICW office here. What's Rosemary's number? What's the general phone number?
612-871-6460.
6460?
Yep.
Okay, and so you can get information that way. If we can't publicly post it, then you're welcome to call.
612-871-6460.
671 or 87?
871.
Yeah.
Well, I have some concerns that I'd like to bring up. I've seen, a lot of our children get placed in permanent custody or be adopted by non-relatives. Yeah. And I think we really need a data system in the enrollment office so that we can find out who these relatives are. Because I cannot believe that all the children that we have don't have relatives.
Agreed.
And non-relatives from that home somewhere.
Wonder if we can connect you with our enrollments folks and see what can be, just start the discussion.
We did that before and they said they don't have the data system to do that.
you should know that the computers are Can we just change software and go to the new computer system? There's a possibility that we drag it up, from the car or,
I think that's another way that we're losing our children.
yeah.
Well, if you could reach out to COO or maybe the ED and coordinate with them and just see what can be done. And then if you need support from the council, I think we'd be happy to help in any way.
Mr. Chair, one of the things that we're running across also with financial services in child support is accessing the enrollment data. They are requesting that we provide a release of information where we feel that we're part of the same entity. So that may be something we should talk to legal about so we can get direct access and not have some of that resistance to like a program like child support or financial services to have access to that database.
That would be a legal question, but I'm sure it's gonna have to go to, it's gonna have to go to MCT also.
That may be somewhat their cost is that sharing the data.
But my, yeah, that's what it is.
I plan on talking, Mr. Chair, I plan on talking Monday with Joe and I can bring that up at that time.
Any questions for Deb?
Use cartridge.
All right,
Yeah,
no,
I have a
no
question.
question, Paul.
How do you help our families down here that maybe the mom isn't enrolled, but grandma is? And how do you help the families where, to be more proactive or to get support in regards if the other side, the county attorney doesn't even follow the procedure of trying to have ICWA involved? I mean, like, okay, I'll use me as an example. I'm grandma, my daughter's not enrolled, and we had a situation with my grandson, but I kept saying, but I'm grandma, where's my grandma rights? Where is ICWA? And I kept saying that, so the second time she went to court, there was an ICWA person. I don't know how that happened, but the thing is, I feel like a lot of our families fall through the cracks, and that the system doesn't always follow protocol in involving ICWA with our families.
Well, I'd have to kind of say too that I know a little bit about that. I think for the problem is we don't get eligibility anymore as quickly as we need them. The cases, get well advanced and then finally somebody thinks, oh, yes, well, it's a White Earth case. But then all decisions have been made.
So I think, we have an attorney that we can get involved when the counties don't want to work with us, then we get our attorneys involved. But right now, so our criteria for eligibility, we look at if a parent is eligible for enrollment, then a child can be a first generation descendant. And all of those first generation descendant children are recognized for current resolution. But we also have the ability to recognize individual kids in specific cases. So for example, the dad may be from another tribe that's not being counted in, and that other tribe may not be intervening. So we look at all of those on a case-by-case basis and say, yeah, we absolutely have to get involved in it.
So how far do you delve into it and looking at history, considering maybe I have a child with a different last name than my name, and then maybe the child has the dad's name who's non-native? How far would you go into really trying to find that enrolled member?
So we go by all the information. The county is supposed to collect all the information that they can. And so we put all of that on our enrollment eligibility sheets. And just talking about eligibility, we fill all those out. It goes to our enrollment office. And then from there, they give us a decision back about who on the sheet is enrolled members. And so we can look at eligibility. But yeah, I mean, we've had situations before where, somebody changed their name and it's not that name in the enrollment books. And then people have to call us and let us know that, oh, I might be enrolled with this other name.
I feel that because of some of the situations that fell through the cracks, I feel that word gets out like that in the community, and the community needs to be more educated on how to be more proactive in finding your services to help our families. And I'm not even sure how that's supposed to happen. Like, some of the things I just asked you is informational. So now I can go back, if I hear somebody say, oh, well, why even bother? I can start talking and say, well, this is what I know, or this is where you can call. So I think it's just really important about also community being accountable and also being more proactive in supporting others in our community.
Yeah, if it's helpful, we could use some of that explanation, do an article in the tribal paper, that would help. Any other questions for Dan?
All right, we'll move on. Thank you, Deb. Mr. Carl.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I have just a one-page outline that I'll pass along if you're interested. Brief remarks, I should have kept one for myself. So bonjour, good morning, thank you everyone, and thank you Tribal Council for being down here, but more importantly, and I know we mentioned it earlier, recognizing the investment that White Earth's made down here with people, with dollars, with your time, and it doesn't all just reflect back on the folks that go through and use the mental health or the The community knows, the community sees that, and I can't tell you how many people have commented to me in the last year and a half about the investment that White Earth is making. They're making it in the people down here. So that's really what it comes down to. And it does not go unnoticed. So just want to say that. Glasses, getting older. So urban office, we've relocated twice in the last year. I think some people have had a hard time finding us. We had a sandwich and a cup of coffee over at the Clifton building for a couple of weeks, and that was very nice, but we are so appreciative to be in the carriage house at 214 West Franklin. We have our own space. We can plan some things. We can do some things there that we haven't been able to do in the past with just a couple of offices. So very, working out very well for our urban members, for us as staff, and I think for just general community. So that's a good one. And we're starting to see more people come over and be more comfortable with. And the one thing that you get a lot of comments on is you get some good parking here. And that's important down here. We all know you get good parking. So in the month of November, and I just want to introduce Marcy Hart here. Marcy's we comprise the urban office. During the month of November, we had 146 times we had contact with our members. That's a lower number by about 40 for us typically. But we have seen that curve kind of increasing at an increasing rate, if you know what I mean. We believe we'll get back or even exceed. So during the month of November, we did have a few things. We cut 3 events primarily that we were involved with or put on. First one was the Honor Native Veterans Lunch that we held in this building, and had a good turnout, really solid turnout. It was come in, have lunch anytime between this time period. We got some gifts for you. We want to recognize your service. And we did that in conjunction with the Boys Fort and Fond du Lac and the Mille Lacs office and Red Lake office. And we work together on these things down here sometimes pretty closely because it's just a matter of miles. We started native crafting here. This grew out of not only being involved with the crafting and or the cultural committee at the Clifton Place and Behavioral Health and all the great work that they're doing. and culture. So we were able to do this and get it started. I think today, this afternoon, we're having our fourth one over at our office and be starting in a couple of hours. And then we had a White Earth Elder Fall Feast here on the 17th. Had a pretty nice lunch and had a decent turnout, and really appreciative to be able to provide that opportunity for the elders to come out and take advantage of. Just want to mention December and beyond, we're going to continue on the cultural crafting. We're going to continue to grow that. We have taken a survey of our members, and we're gathering survey so we can find out what they want from us, what direction they want us to go with that. Big believer in getting the information and then making a plan based upon what people tell us our mission is, if you will. Toys for Tots. Sign up is still available. We have some forms back there in the back of the room. If you know anyone or you need one yourself, we have the forms back there for Toys for Tots. Now the Toys for Tots only goes up to 12 this year, but if you have White Earth children, enrolled children, or if you have White Earth parents, we have a mechanism to be able to handle some of the teenagers back there too, and so we have forms for that as well. This Saturday in this building, we're going to have a White Earth Children's Christmas party, and hope to have a good turnout for that. We're going to have Santa, we got the balloons, we got a few hundred candy bags put together. We've got some minor toys that the kids will walk out the door with, but you know, they'll have something in their hands. We're gonna have some hot dogs and some food. We'll have some stuff for the teenagers. So we hope it's a good day. And if you know anyone, get them over here at 11 o'clock Saturday morning. Got flyers in the back of the room on that as well. Yes.
This Saturday?
This Saturday, 11 a.m. Okay, great. I think that's really about it. I'm certainly anxious to take any questions anyone has or comments, feedback, criticism.
You're doing a good job down there, Carl. Service a lot of people, you know, the needs that pop up in the community, even emergency travel. That becomes probably the first most thing.
Yeah. Crisis situation, right?
Crisis situation, burnout, things like that. Thank you for that. Deb, you have a question?
Hey,
Carl,
sorry.
I saw that you were providing gift cards for the teenagers.
Yes, we have forms back there.
I just think that's really awesome. I
Well,
appreciate
thank
that.
you.
A lot of times the teenagers, you know.
Yeah, and that's been the problem, and frankly, that's why the Toys for Tots stopped at 12, because it was just ridiculous what was be available for 15 and 16-year-olds, but just nothing. And so thank you to the Tribal Council for including the urban teens in that gift card, and there are forms back there to be filled out, yeah, so be sure and get that into us by Friday night if you can. Mr. Paulson.
Carl, in the urban area, there's quite a number of White Earth members.
Yes, there is.
Half the population of White Earth lives within the 10-county area, is that right?
Maybe not quite half, but a large population,
So
yes.
how many folks do you deal with like on a monthly basis here? How many have you?
Oh, the month of November, we had 146.
And that's lower than normal?
That's lower than normal. We were dealing with, 5 to 7 people a day kind of thing. But, a lot of this, Al, might, we'll get folks come in and go, hey, what's the food shelf in my area? So it's as simple as Googling that for them, printing them off a map and saying, here's your food shelf location. Where can I go to do this? Where can I go to get a pair of boots? That a lot of those types of things that are pretty quick transactions, to get that information out. This young guy
I just
over
wanted you
here,
to
Tom, was
repeat,
it?
yeah, I wanted you to repeat that crafts part, what
Oh.
days and
So
schedule.
we wanted to do something. We want to make good use of our space too. We want to maximize that opportunity. So we started doing crafting. We got a local person from the community. We actually have a couple of our members that are willing to help out. We started out with beading the first week. Because that's kind of a good place to start, and it doesn't cost a lot to have some supplies on hand. We've added a few things as we've gone along this afternoon. I understand they're gonna make some holiday themed decorations, native decorations, and there may be some other activities going on. I think they're possibly gonna be sewing some skirts too, but, you know, so that it really, that's why we wanted to do the, survey, is to get some ideas from the members. I mean, let's provide what they actually want, if we can. Now, there's some that say full regalia, and
Yeah.
obviously that 4-hour window's not gonna.
I noticed they made 2 TVs down there at Tent City too.
Yeah, yep.
Really cool community outreach. I just want to know what time that was. Like I wanted to participate.
Noon, starts at noon this afternoon, 214 West Franklin. We've got flyers out in the lobby on it too. And we're gonna try and run that every other Thursday to keep it consistent.
Do they do any bead work there?
Yes, most definitely. Yes.
Okay, so you only running from 12 and 100. So you gotta pay building, operations, you know, for other kids that are, you know, teenagers.
Yeah, that's what she was talking about with the teens, because not been a lot of support in that area through Toys for Tots or through the people that provide that, so.
Oh, I understand that. Like next year, are you gonna be able to, you know, you got a whole year to, you know, put it together, I mean, and give them clothes or something, you know what I mean? For the 12 and up.
Yeah.
You know, and gift cards or something.
Yeah, well, we are doing the gift cards, but it is something that definitely could
Just
use
so they don't build up.
more work. And then as an added benefit this year, if you will benefit, we were able to get a donation, and when we distribute Toys for Tots, we will be providing a bag of groceries as well, so that families, because they got kids home over the holidays and stuff, probably need a little bit more food in the house, and maybe some stuff the kids can cook themselves, so we will be providing a $30 bag of groceries, which I know is not a lot, but hopefully will help some.
I'm hearing what you're saying, Carl, and this is also directed for the tribal council, because as you were talking, I'm aware of how our budget cuts were also really affected the urban council down here. And that, what would make, tribal council really look at the needs and, financially for our people down here, White Earth members down here? And my thought is, would a data tracking system work to show you, yes, you know, we really need more financial assistance in different areas because of other programming down here doesn't always offer or can help us. So we can't just, you know, it's great that Carl's referring and everything, but doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna get that help. And I feel that we really still need to support our White Earth members down here through White Earth, through the White Earth Tribal Council. So I'm not sure what is needed, but my thought is, you know, I like the tracking. I see that what Carl said is how many people have come through, but there is so much more needs. I think, you know, that it needs to show you what.
And it's not just all for just the poorest of poor. There's a lot of working families out here that hit a bad spot and can't pay their rent, and the next thing you know, they're living over there in Tent City. We don't always have a way to get that little bump in help to pay that month's rent because I got sick and couldn't work for a week, so now I'm really screwed. You know, I mean, you go to Hennepin County and they tell you, well, you don't have a job, we can't help you. Well, you know, isn't that what that's supposed to be for? You know, give me a help, give me a bump for a minute. And if we could, because I lost housing because we couldn't pay the rent because of my disability. And so there we are struggling, trying to find a place to live and can get no help anywhere. We went to churches, we went to community places, we went to welfare, because we're not married, we can't get help. You know, there's gotta be something White Earth can do for those of us that are the working poor, that just need help once, maybe twice in our lives, but not something to depend on, but being able to come to Carl and say, look, I'm $200 short on my rent this month. Is there anything the tribe can do for us? You know, I mean, even maybe a loan program that says, hey, we can help you with this, but we're gonna make you pay us back $25 a month. I'd rather do that than live in my truck. You know, programs like that for the working poor, because we're not all dependent on the system.
I think those are some very, very valid points, and I agree with what you are saying. White Earth does have a constituents program that we offer for folks that are near or around White Earth. But I also think, I was just talking with our fund and work group that the tribal council has authorized us to have discussions on what we're looking at for the future, right? And I think we should add that as an agenda item for that fund and work group on what are we gonna do for folks that may not necessarily live right at White Earth? How can we help folks wherever they may live? And I'm just thinking very pragmatically. And before maybe I should wait. Okay, Ben,
If you don't mind me,
go right ahead. Okay.
because I had an opportunity to meet with a few of the community members here about a week ago or so. And I started some deals attorney.
Yeah.
I have a meeting with DHS on the 13th to talk about several of the issues here in the metro area. One of the things I want to find out from the DHS is who's the funding sources? Where are these FHPAP dollars, our long-term homeless dollars, are these homeless dollars? Where are they going? What agencies are receiving these funding? Because I want to know why our people aren't able to access this same funding that's available that we get for our tribal members up north. And it's restricted to that area. I want to know where these funding agencies are. Two, I want to find out if we can access some of these fundings ourselves for our tribal members down here. So we could probably expand like what Carl Services are at, somebody else to Carl Services. So we can maybe, I always feel it's our sovereign right to provide services to our own people. So why not having us do it? So our people aren't having to go to this agency here and get turned down. You know, so that's second part. The third part is I'm talking to them about meeting with you guys, with the community council down here. And I'm going to be bringing it up on the 13th, trying to set a date, trying to find a date when DHS can sit down and meet with you guys and talk about some of this stuff, what your guys' needs are, so they can hear firsthand, you know, because they do the money thing, they sit in their office, you know, it's nothing against them, but you know, to see that reality of what we're talking about. So yes, ma'am.
I just want to know if there's gonna be a 1-800 number, you know, with
Yeah. You know, right now we're like,
for that, you know, funding.
right, and right now what we're doing is I'm trying to do a little bit of discovery of where these services are, where these monies are going, because we all know Hennepin County gets the lion's share of the state budget, come services here, and it was really disheartening because I made that comment. I said, well, one of the reasons that we don't do so much services down here is because you guys have all the services available. And then when I got corrected and found out that, hey, we're not getting these services delivered to us, I'm like, okay, we got to find out why. And it's not DHS's fault, but I want to find out who the service providers are, where this money's going, what, you know, and then what we can do to access it for our people. Or maybe we can get it ourselves to provide it for our people. Yes.
A lot of people can't run up to White Earth and, you know, get the funding, you know, and sit and marinate while they got families down there starving that they're worried about just to get the funding. Ain't nobody got money for that. You know, the bus ticket. Mary Jo stopped helping the native people, you know. So, I mean, she used to give tickets and everything. That was a resource. But she ain't helping the native people anymore, so we're just sitting here. Can't hitchhike anymore because they'll put it on, you know, you get a ticket, you know, throw it in jail if you don't, you know, get on to the street. Think you're up on this one?
So, Mr. Chair, part of my proposal is I want to talk to DHS, find out what's going on, find out if we're eligible, and I may need tribal council support to say, hey, we're gonna need to advocate with politicians or whatever to get this money available for us in this area. Because chances are it's going to the big nonprofits, going to the big agencies and stuff like that, and we're just a number there. Where with the disparities showing on the services, our Native American people are in a higher disparity than any other minority group here in the metro area. So I mean,
And it is really demeaning to go to these places that are supposed to be help funding these things and to get turned down. And to feel like you are nothing. I've worked all my life, but now you're gonna tell me no? It just isn't right. I would rather go to Carl or a member of our tribe and ask for help than to go into a area where they just don't even make you feel like you deserve anything. And it's not that I deserve it, it's I need it. And I'm willing to work for it.
I've worked on a couple of hardships before and I've helped out. I mean, you know, as long as it's not an ongoing thing, you know what I mean, but an emergency situation and if there's a hardship, something, I'm more than willing to help out. I have helped. Carl knows that.
But I had never ever thought of going up to White Earth to ask you guys for anything because I live down here. Why would I go all the way up there to say, hey guys, I need $200 for rent this month? When we have people down here that could help with that if the funding was available.
But that's why I think, Ben, your initiative is gonna be so important, because that could unlock a lot of opportunities and resources for our folks down here.
well, Mr. Chair, and part of the concern that we've heard in the past on White Earth was our people would have to go to the county agency or this off reservation agency, and they did feel just, you know, demeaned or you know, sometimes like racism was going on or just made feel like lower than. And that's why we fought so hard over the years to get these services to the White Earth. Because like I said, I believe it's our sovereign right to provide our services to our own people. And so we've made that progress. We've gotten some of these doors open, like with LTH and FHPAP, which tribes have never gotten before until the last few years. And so why not here?
Then, you
A
know,
lot of people also
the Ubi
can't
project,
get a hold of
you know,
Carl.
they do all the head counts. They
Everybody
include our
gets-
Indian people here and don't provide the services, you know? So
Oh, right.
that, you know, we go back to burn the plant at DHS, we go back to Bill Haas, our state lobbyist. We start moving it legislatively that we do need the funding here also, you know, we have many members down here that could result in extra resources for our people.
So, Mr. Chair, I will report back to Randy on what am I finding is discovery on when I meet with DHS. It'll be just a teamwork building session to start unwrapping this, because I know they are very attentive and we're excited to have this meeting to talk about what we can do.
Marcy has got a couple comments and then they may have questions.
Well, right, I'm Marcy, I work for the White Earth Urban Office at White Earth Enrollees, Ben. And what I wanted to say is thank you, Ben, for that, because sometimes people can get in a meeting and talk about things, but they don't really get a follow through. So I really am happy to hear you say that. And I, you know, to the tribal council, I don't believe that White Earth has ever approached DHS about any of this, about services to our people. And I think it's about time that we do that, because you have to go and fight for our rights for our people. You know, because if they get these monies from the state and federal government, we also are included in that. And here in the urban area, I know a lot of people think that we don't need it because we got all these resources out there. Well, ever since we had the recession, a lot of the programs closed down and they have not started up, even though we were not supposed to be in a recession anymore. So I think it's a very good idea that Ben would go and help the urban people. We really need that. So I was glad to hear that. And also, I think that this comes down to communication. We got to communicate with DHS to let them know, because they always say the squeaky wheel gets the attention. Well, we need to go there and say, you know, we need this. We need this for our people. And we're a large population down here of enrolled people, and that we need to do this. And so, and I'm talking about communication. Like I said, I don't believe that DHS has ever heard from White Earth to talk about this, to talk about the needs in the Indian community here in general. So I really am open to hopefully that this will take place. And the reason I'm talking about communication is we need more communication in our own White Earth programs. I mean, our services, there are services that we hear about in our office that we might hear from a client, and we didn't hear from any department head about what they're doing. We need to keep open communication. And I just am so glad for the substance abuse programs, because this is a start to break the circle of substance abuse among Indian people. We gotta hit the young people, and hopefully the circle will be broken. And I'm a product of that circle. So, and I'm glad that it's finally being addressed. And also the what they call historical trauma, that also needs to be addressed. And a lot of this comes back to the historical trauma. And we need to break that circle and start being proud again of who we are. And also and I think it starts with spirituality, and there's a lot of spirituality going on with the substance abuse program, which I was glad to hear about, because once you get in touch with your spirituality, I think that the physical and the mental and the emotional comes back to you. And so hopefully that is, it's really important. And I think it will help Indian people, to DHS to get a hand up, not a handout. We're looking for hand ups to help people, not to make them dependent on any welfare system. I think that needs to be clarified with people, because I think a lot of people have grown up thinking that the welfare system owes them something. So I think we need to start clearing that up and saying, this is a hand up. We need to look at ourselves and have respect for ourselves and help each other. And that's one thing I noticed that in the community, people don't help each other. So we got to start getting back to that too. Thank you. And another thing I want to address the federal council to is 214 West Franklin Avenue in Minneapolis is a part of the White Earth Nation. One of the things that's not happening is safety. Now, I noticed that there's safety going on with the two mansions. We've had people come in and steal from us because our offices are upstairs. We finally got a baby monitor, for heaven's sakes, to watch who's coming in and out the door. But I can't see all over the whole building there. And we don't have the storage space like we did. So, we make do with what we have. And we have people that come in, if we don't hear them, they're going through our stuff, and we had some donated blankets, and people just came and helped themselves to them. I'm sure they probably needed them, but still, people shouldn't come in and just help themselves. Somebody tried to come and steal our TV. They unplugged everything and tried to pull that TV out of there, but they couldn't get it out. So, which was good. Another stronger person probably could have. But these are things that I want to talk about. White Earth, we need security system. We need a camera in that, we need a doorbell or a camera or something to, and for safety reasons. And I watch Justice Network, and I don't want to be a victim. So when I'm in there alone, I lock the door. And people should have a doorbell, and I have the computer downstairs where I could work to make sure that when Carl has to leave the building, that I'm locking the door and I'm making sure who's coming in. Because I don't want to be upstairs and have someone come in and I don't see them. So I'm talking about my personal safety, but not only my personal safety, but for all the people that come into our building. And we also need handicap access. We don't have that. Yes.
Do you have a tunnel that goes through from building to building? A tunnel?
Yeah.
That blocked off or?
No, we just keep the basement door locked. So you have to enter from our office.
You have a question in back?
Yeah,
Yes.
I think, no disrespect, but the reason Tent City is there is because they lost hope from the other people.
Protest.
You know, and a baby monitor, when there's killing going on over there of your own people, that should be more of a focus than a baby monitor. That's all I need to say. You know, getting back on hand, they were slamming the door out. Their pride was gone, so they had to turn to another place to be, another personality to depend on, because they're out there every night, every day, being around people that are killing each other because of the other people's culture, because the door was slammed on them. You know, and a baby monitor, you know, that stuff should be left in the office. That's amongst you guys to clarify and fix. But there's people, last night, almost 3 people died. You know, ambulance, police, this is every night going on. I'm in Tent City. I'm one of them. But you know what? They don't even have their tribe to have them.
I'd like to make a
That's why they're
comment
there.
on that. I have a nephew who's living in the camp.
I'm friendly.
Because we cannot trust him in our own homes. He has ripped off every one of his relatives for drugs. That's why he's living in Tent City. I haven't turned my back on him, but until he decides to get help for his addiction, I can't have him in my house. And that's what a lot of the tent encampment is. People with drug addiction that need the help, that refuse to get it. I feel bad for them, but until they ask for help, until they get help, how are we gonna help them if we can't even trust them in our own homes? I love my nephew to death, but
Marcy's over here
But
like
they
a
have to
security
mix
officer.
themselves in with all the other innocent people that, you know.
You'd like to have a security officer that's working on
Great, what things.
Gotta hear you.
Speak up.
Yeah.
To watch the entrance and exit of the building, and then we need handicap room for this, so I had sent out an email earlier, Randy, so it's just a recommendation that I would have reason about, but I can support that. And unfortunately, our district but doesn't have funding for that. But it's happening.
Mr. Chairman, fellow members.
Yes.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tammy Skinaway. I'm an urban council member here down in the cities. And I just wanted to agree exactly with Marcy said about spirituality and us supporting one another. And that just leads to back to what you were talking about, that, you know, that we don't have that hope anymore. And as an example, there's different levels of homelessness. You know, we have the teenage moms, you know, the people who are addicted, those that don't have any support. We have the professionals like me who are homeless. You know, and thank goodness that I have a mother who stay here and there, or a cousin. But most of my family members aren't. I'm not able to stay with them because of their issues, and I don't choose to do that. So there are so many different levels, and I know 3 different women who work in the community right now who are professionals who have, you know, served their community for over 10 years, and we are all 3 homeless women with families to take care of. So there are different levels, and to that, you know, I back what Marcy says about the spirituality and the supporting one another and coming back to that somehow. You know, for somebody to call an office and only hear a voicemail and not get a phone call back, you know, there has to be some kind of connection. Like if this person can't answer, then maybe we can connect them to another person, you know, to just not give up, to have that hope and to be able to find that and have a person, if it's 1 person, 2 people, that might have an answer for somebody to lead them to another way. That's what I definitely believe that we need is support for each other. So I just wanted to mention that.
Spiritual, technological.
You should put a tent over or a teepee up over there, at least give them choices. You know, they don't even have choices. They've adopted another person's culture just to feel like they're human. So if you had a teepee up over there and some choices for the White Earth tribal members, at least they got a choice right there, because you already put it in front of them. All they have to do is walk in and get all that. So if they're ready to, and if they want to. But you gotta at least extend that hand,
So,
or otherwise we ain't gonna get it. They're gonna be buried.
so this Sunday, some tribal women have stepped forward and they've asked tribal leaders to come this Sunday at 1 o'clock at the Minnesota American Indian Center. Several tribal nations are gonna be there. There's going to be a ceremony. There's going to be a discussion on the operational potential movement dates and stuff like that, of how they're gonna help our folks in that camp. Also, there's also going to be a discussion if there are any men that are in that encampment over there that are in there. Some of our tribal women have asked tribal leaders to have a discussion with our tribal men on the importance of respect and caring for our women, because we're receiving reports that our women are being disrespected in that camp, and that's something that we want to have a discussion on Sunday. So if you know anyone that's over there that would be interested in attending that discussion at 1 o'clock on Sunday, please bring them over. Also, we've been in talks with the mayor about the importance of providing quality services and everything our folks need. The folks that aren't tracking, those folks are going to be, some of them are going to be moved or asked to move, or they're going to have the option of moving over to the Red Lake site, where there's going to be even more services available for folks. And those details will be discussed this Sunday, and so we encourage folks to attend that, because I think there may be a member of the nonprofit that's responsible for managing that specific site at Red Lake. And so there's going to be some really important folks there, so if you have questions for them, please bring them. We encourage you to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Who's on the council gonna be down there?
People to leave.
All of us.
All of you?
Yeah, we'll be here.
People ain't gonna come to your meeting. What you need to do is print out information to them and walk through and hand it out to the White Earth tribal members. And give it to them, because they're not gonna leave what they only have.
So it's
to
not.
come to your meeting.
Yes, ma'am.
Bullshit.
Yes, ma'am. There's more than it's not just White Earth. It's all the tribal nations. We're all coming together on this. It's really important, and I agree with you. But tomorrow or on Sunday is just the start of the conversation.
Why don't you put up a TV, like I said, have the door wide open and say, come on, you're a tribal member, you need to hear this. You know, come here, have people out there making sure that their place is secure. And the only way you're gonna do that is if you buy a bunch of locks, so they can lock their tent and come to your meeting. Real talk. That's real talk.
Thank you.
Because they don't want people are breaking into tents, going in there, stealing, even Somalians. You know, they're trying to rape kids in the bathroom over there. They're not gonna leave their tent to even come in your teepee because they have no locks with keys to where they can trust a little bit, just to say, okay, just for this, give me, fill my information.
If you could send me something, or if we can create some sort of flyer, I will go there Friday and I'll stay there for a couple of hours to find our members and get the word out.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes. I'm just telling because I live there, that's bullshit.
Well, at this time, I think we'd like to take about a 10-minute break, 15-minute break for our smokers in the crowd. Hey, how are you? Callaway. Elbow Lake. Iron Ranch. Almond. Northern White Earth, Cascade. Pine Point. Rice Lake. White Earth.
Meeting started.
White Earth Urban.
President, hello, I'm Marcy, and I'm a member of the White Earth Urban Council, Community Council, and I'd like to welcome everyone here. we meet on the second Tuesday of every month, and our next meeting will be, December 11th, next Tuesday. And, we've been doing, some changing around. We've got, different officers, not necessarily new, but we've got different officers. We do have a new, chairperson, and that is Charlie. She couldn't make it today because she's working. And vice president is Ellen Lumpkin. And then our secretary, I'm the secretary, and we have a new treasurer, which is Cheryl Heminitz, and she is also working today. So we're really glad to have all our officers in place. We've been without our full officers. So I'm glad that we finally got them all filled. We also have members, which includes Geraldine Jackson, she's in the kitchen, and also Pammy Skinaway is one of our members, and also Don the Rock is a member. So I hope I didn't miss anyone. I think that's pretty much it right now. And really appreciate everybody's work, hard work and volunteer. We really work hard to keep our people together and to do work in a community. And we still got a lot of work. We have a lot of challenges because we need to recruit more people. We get a lot of people that come to our events, but it just seems like when it comes to the work, we can't get people to come and help us. But one of the good things that's been happening that we emphasize the fact that our elder lunches that we have 6 months out of the year, if we had them all the 12 months, that's more than what we get for our council. Our budget is $1,000 a year. We did manage to carry over some, so we got a little bit more than that. But what we emphasize is the fact that our elder lunches are potluck. And now we've been having people bringing food, which I'm glad. So that is encouraging to us because people are starting to work together. And we're talking about elders, and we would really like to have this example to our and we help out with Toys for Tots. We help out with, we're going to be helping out with the party on Saturday, our community members, and I don't know, what else is there to say? I know I'm forgetting stuff because we're always busy.
I would like to thank our urban community for the consistency they've had over the past 8 to 10 years with having meetings, having our elders luncheon, working with the urban office on a summer picnic and on the winter holiday parties. I think our urban council has shown that we are committed to our people here in the urban area and would like to continue doing so. But tribal council, we could sure use a bump in some money. We do give out $10 gift cards. If we play bingo, we give out $10 gift cards for the winners. If we don't play bingo because there's just not enough people, we will hand out a $10 gift card to each elder that is here. So, you know, I think we're doing pretty darn good here with our elders, but we could use a little bit of financial help in keeping it going, maybe making it 8 out of 12 instead of 6 out of 12 luncheons, you know, just to keep it going because they do enjoy it. You do enjoy it, right,
Yes,
French?
yes.
Carol, everybody.
Do you think it will
Civil.
if we have it on evening meetings? Get more people there?
Maybe in the summertime.
In the summertime.
Yeah, elders don't want to venture out when it's dark. Yeah. And of course, we don't like to have it in January and February because those are really nice months and it's very clean. So we have to not encourage people to go out if we don't have to.
Marcy, I see on the agenda, and I don't know, does that mean us, September sixth, not the agenda, the minutes? But it's under White Earth Urban and it says emergency housing is always open and there are over 12,000 members down in Minneapolis area. Is that a misquote?
It is definitely a misquote. One of the things I did say was emergency housing has always been in a crisis in the Twin City area, and I'm sure around the all-state area also.
So, and I think that's important to be seen because again, it reflects how people perceive it and saying, oh, well, they don't really need the help down there because they got emergency housing always open here. I don't know if it's possible to change it or.
In the minutes, please.
We'll make the correction in this thing. We'll reference the minutes that they need to be corrected.
Okay.
Got that, John?
Yep. Yes.
You know, I read a lot of hatred online of people who always comment about the urban Indians and the city Indians. And I want it known that they think we live such a grandiose life down here. They're not aware a one-bedroom apartment in Minneapolis is $1,500, and that's a decent apartment. That's not even a great apartment. Can you imagine having to pay $1,500 for a one-bedroom? I want to know if people up there are aware that, like, our numbers count for the funding. Like, isn't that right? You only get funding
That's why
for.
Ben Bement, he's gonna go to the DHS and he's gonna ask them. Those counties can do our head counts. They receive the funding for it, but it's not flowing through back to our people. So legislatively, if we move forward with our lobbyists here, hopefully we can get that door open to us again,
But are people up north aware of this? Because they just say, why do our opinions matter? They think we take advantage of programs down here, but I've never been able to get any kind of like tap into anything because I don't live up there. And it's okay, but they think that we.
Well, they think that we shouldn't have a vote either. Someone just put that on Facebook towards me the other day, and it's like.
Well, but I mean, are they aware that our numbers do count? Because if you guys didn't have our numbers, you'd only get funding for how many people live on the reservation.
And also, I was told I was wrong on that too, that federal monies don't include us that live off rents. James Shimmick, anybody?
Is that like? Well, that's another thing, is people are listening to other people, not to.
Well, there's a lot of misinformation out there.
Right.
And there's a lot of disinformation campaigns that are going around. A lot of folks are trying to, unfortunately, some folks are trying to divide us, our people. They're saying that, oh, just because you don't live here, you're not from here, or just because you're not from this particular area, you don't matter. And I can tell you, that's not true. We're all one people. Anishinaabe have no borders, right? And so I think, folks out there, they have to know the facts, right? And unfortunately, some folks are spreading misinformation, and it's unfortunate, is what it is. And I totally feel for what you're saying and the situation you're going through.
But without asking these questions or disagreeing, we'll never know the truth either.
Yeah.
We need to be able to say what we need to say to get results without causing too much disruption.
It's amazing what people think, that we just live greatly down here. They call this a dirty city, they call it everything, but they don't know the struggle down here. We can't just pick up and move up north. Can you imagine if all of us came back up? Then there'd be a whole nother, they're taking our jobs.
That'd be historical.
What do you want?
Invaded us.
Anyway, we just came back.
So,
Came back on the scene.
It's a tough situation.
Okay, if there's no more questions, then, that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marcy.
Mr. Chair, can I just make one announcement?
Yeah.
I would just like to apologize to you on our live feed for being on my phone this morning, but I am helping and setting up rooms for a wake and a funeral, so I apologize for being on my phone, but that's how busy we get, and I just can't let it ride because we need the rooms tonight and tomorrow. So I apologize for that, but I'm done with it now, so thank you all for putting up with me there.
Hey, Rich. All right, next we have our quarterly financial report. Alan will present that. It includes the OGP, the Madera settlement, the financial transition.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the folks that are in the crowd and the folks that are at home, this memo is available for everyone. It is included on the table back there. I am just going to read it, because I know some of us, we don't like to read, we like to listen. And so I'll just get started. To the White Earth Reservation Business Committee, within this quarterly report delivered at the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe Building in Minneapolis, Minnesota, several matters are noted for your consideration. The financial report, financial transition, behavioral health, healthy homes resolution, Damon, the other government project, and the Madera settlement. For the financial report, as reported to the Secretary Treasurer by Chief Financial Officer Scott Omlet throughout this section, for governmental activities overall from October 1, 2017 to September 30th, 2018, end of fiscal year 2018, our combined revenue was $152.2 million, and our expenditures were $107.4 million. At this time, our cash on hand was $40.1 million. However, $36.2 million were considered other governmental funds. $24 million of these funds belong to the behavioral health, and our general fund was just $3.9 million. The increase in the general fund can be attributed to Shooting Star Casino transfers to support general fund activities. Collectively, our expenditures during this period were $107.4 million. Other government funds were $84.5 million, and the general fund was $22.9 million. It is important to note that other governmental funds can be used within the general fund, but only for qualified expenditures. In other words, the $36.2 million within the other governmental funds cannot be used for unqualified purposes. The tribe only had $3.9 million available. This is a stark contrast compared to 2014, when the tribe had over $40 million of cash available to be used for anything. Unfortunately, unchecked spending reduced this amount to around $1 million when the new administration began in July 2018. In other words, from 2014 to 2018, the tribe spent over $40 million, and our people are suffering for it now because we don't have the funds for legitimate purposes. These expenditures are a continuation of deficit spending of the previous administration. The unaudited preliminary numbers are subject to change as the numbers are finalized. And what's not included on this report is that as we're heading into the next fiscal year, we are running a deficit. We are running a $2.4 million deficit that we're going to have to figure out before October 1 of next year. Financial transition. As reported to the Secretary Treasurer by Human Resources Director Nicole Graff throughout this section, the Tribal Council would like to acknowledge all White Earth employees, including Shooting Star Casino, for your hard work and continued dedication during the fiscal year 19 financial transition. Continued collaboration and communication has allowed us to retain and transfer employees. A total of 37 employees were affected. 3 seasonal contract employees' employment ended early. 3 employees had a reduction of hours. 1 employee is in the process of transferring, and 1 employee was offered a demotion. Only 2 layoffs of regular time, full-time employees occurred, and 27 employees were successfully transferred into new positions. For the employees and families affected by these changes, the Tribal Council recognizes your contributions to our nation as instrumental to our success. With your new roles in tribal government, our future remains positive. Your work supports thousands of tribal members and their families. Your work is appreciated. Your work makes a difference, and you will continue to make a difference in your new roles. A special thank you to the dedicated human resource staff for assisting our employees affected by this change. For behavioral health, As reported to the Secretary Treasurer by Behavioral Health Director Jerry Jaskin throughout this section for the Behavioral Health Program, the preliminary numbers through September 30th, 2018 show a total revenue of $52,512,964, with expenditures of $35,663,683. The net income was $16,849,280, $16.8 million, which resulted in $23.9 million for cash in bank. These funds must be reinvested in health, behavioral health, and wellness programs. The White Earth Behavioral Health Division provides various mental health, substance abuse, and related services to tribal members in an effort to combat the opioid crisis and to meet other crucial health needs at White Earth. The behavioral health program helps our people. It has helped many. In regards to the layoffs that were scheduled for fiscal year 19, the behavioral health program has transferred several of these employees under its umbrella. The RBC has authorized a $12 million Moms and Mats facility for the village of Nadawash, which is under the behavioral health program. Now, there may be concern that if the Moms Mats facility program, needs diminish, the funding will diminish. However, there are other integrated services that will be included in the building for the benefit of the people. These other services include mental health, substance abuse outpatient, juvenile wellness, autism, Indian child welfare, and harm reduction. Behavioral health funds must be used for federally qualifying health, behavioral health, and wellness programs. The tribe supports these requirements through the Healthy Homes Resolution. The Healthy Homes Resolution. This past quarter, the Tribal Council passed the Healthy Homes Resolution, otherwise known as Healthy Homes. And Healthy Homes provides sustainability and protects our resources, people, and sovereignty, and our budget. Healthy Homes supports elder programs and youth programs, among other areas. Use of other government funds supports specific activities within these programs, which draws fewer resources from the general fund. This ensures the sustainability of each program as White Earth continues to address deficit spending from prior years. Healthy Homes was passed the same day as the 2019 budget. The resolution approves each of the following programs to be funded through White Earth Health or behavioral health supplemental income dollars received by the tribe to third-party reimbursements, such as the cultural program, the elder advocacy program, the elderly nutrition program, the constituent services program, the Boys and Girls Club, each tribal government-sponsored powwow, and the drug court. Any additions to the list of tribal programs will be formally documented through official action. White Earth has a Title I contract with the Indian Health Service to plan, conduct, and administer programs and services that IHS would otherwise provide for the tribe. Now for gaming. As reported to the Secretary Treasurer by Shun Star Casino Chief Financial Officer Nick Valentine throughout this section, at the end of quarter 4 fiscal year 18, consolidated revenue was $120.4 million. This revenue combines Monoman, Bagley, and all other gaming revenue. Consolidated expenses through quarter 4 was $110.7 million. Consolidated net income was $9.8 million, with the majority coming from Monoman, which was $8.9 million. Bagley earned $971,000. As we look at fiscal year 19, gaming projects total revenue to be $122 million. Expenditures to be about $111 million. This may result in over $10.7 million in consolidated net income. For cash today, gaming has about $19.5 million. This includes cash carryover from previous years. The total cash on September 30th, 2017, at the end of last fiscal year was $17.6 million. So we grew cash reserves by about $1.9 million. But this doesn't include tribal transfers. The tribe transferred $9.7 million from gaming in fiscal year 18 to sustain the general fund. Otherwise, it would have been $11.3 million. Looking at fiscal year 19, the tribe anticipates similar transfers. The RBC has disputed the electric service agreement, ESA, with Lake Region Electrical Co-op, LREC, the local provider, and Great River Energy, GRE, provider of power to LREC. The ESA was entered into the LREC and GRE in the spring of 2016. Currently, the ESA has a $2 million letter of credit with these entities. To date, RBC has paid about $428,000 towards the substation construction independent of the letter of credit. The remaining amount due on the LLC is $1.172 million that has been presented for payment towards the LOC. As of December 3rd, 2018, Bremer Bank has fulfilled the LOC to GRE in the amount of $1.172 million. Tribe has since passed a resolution calling for arbitration under Section 12 of the ESA. The Bagley Casino continues to experience increased revenues and net income. For fiscal year 18, the property has earned $9.7 million in revenue through September 30th, 2018, with expenditures at about $8.7 million for fiscal year 18. The property had a net income of $971,000. Next year, nominal growth is anticipated in gaming. Financial audits from Brady Martz and Associates is occurring. The report is required to be sent to the National Indian Gaming Commission no later than January 28, 2019. Currently, the auditors have not found any discrepancies as reported to the Secretary Treasurer by Jay Welsh of Brady Martz and Associates on December 5th, 2018. There are issues to report. We'll highlight those areas. And finally, the RBC has repealed the authorizing resolution for the Starlight Casino project. There will be a $5 million reserve taken in fiscal year 18 as an extraordinary item for the write-off of expenditures related to terminating the Starlight Casino project, representing costs related to the environmental assessment worksheet, engineering and architectural plans for the casino, infrastructure planning and related financing and construction preparations, and this includes GRE payment discussed earlier. Now, the other government project. Also this past quarter, the RBC authorized the other government project, otherwise known as OGP. Within the resolution, it reads, the RBC recognizes their responsibility to properly administer and manage tribal programs and services for the benefit of White Earth tribal members per the revised constitution and bylaws of the Minnesota Chippewa tribe. The RBC is committed to ensure that all tribal program funds are properly accounted for and made available for White Earth RBC and White Earth tribal member review to ensure that the funds have been properly spent in accordance with the accounting procedures and or administrative plan set up by the White Earth RBC. The Secretary Treasurer of the White Earth RBC is required under Ordinance I-65 revised, Article 1, duties of the officers of the White Earth Tribal Council, Section 3D, to accept, receipt for, and safeguard all funds and property of the band, and shall keep complete and accurate records of receipts, expenditures, and property in strict accordance with the accounting procedures or administrative plan set up by the White Earth Tribal Council. White Earth RBC has previously authorized under the quote, other government project for the expenditure of tribal funds to audit White Earth tribal programs. That based on the foregoing, the White Earth RBC hereby finds that the White Earth tribal membership deserve and expect that White Earth tribal program funds are to be properly accounted for and utilized for intended purposes in order to provide essential services to all White Earth tribal members. That the White Earth RBC Secretary Treasurer is authorized to expend tribal funds to specifically audit the following White Earth tribal programs: the Bagley Casino Project, the Starlight Property Project, BIA Roads Project, Culture Fund expenditures, and the micro loan expenditures. The OGP was approved at the start of the fiscal year, and the audit is progressing in the following, Once the audit is complete, a consolidated report will be publicly available. The audit related to the Starlight Casino Project has raised several fiscal concerns. 1, on November 21st, 2018, RBC disputed the ESA with LREC and GRE. 2, ESA was entered into the LREC and GRE in the spring of 2016. There are numerous questions that have been raised as to whether the agreement is valid because there may not have been an approved RBC budget that would allow for that type of expenditure. 3, ESA may cost the tribe an additional $2 million for electrical services that at this time will be of no benefit to the White Earth band members. 4, the ESA created a power substation that is not even located on tribal property. Another reason why the RBC has disputed the ESA. As Secretary Treasurer with the support of the majority of the RBC, it has been determined because of the listed concerns that it is in the best interest of the White Earth Band membership to dispute the ESA and attempt to recuperate funds expended on the Star Lake Casino project. Madura settlement. In 2010, the White Earth Nation was awarded a $18.5 million settlement against Game and World International and Angelo Madura. Background can be found on Minnesota Public Radio. The link is included here. Since that decision, efforts have been made by the White Earth RBC to recuperate the settlement from Mr. Madura. The RBC has called for a complete report of the 2016 negotiated settlement, which appears to have been made for substantially less money than the value of the original settlement. The RBC recently visited a Pennsylvania property acquired in the 2016 reduced settlement, as Mr. Madura and his spouse have expressed interest in repurchasing the property from the tribe. The amount offered to buy the property is around $175,000. However, actual market value of the property ranges from $300,000 to $500,000. Further, RBC also has reason to believe there are other valuable minerals located underneath the Pennsylvania property. In short, the current RBC will exhaust all efforts in order to make sure that the White Earth Nation receives a fair compensation from the Madura settlement. Below are motions that were approved by the RBC at a special meeting held on November 21st, 2018. The first motion. I hereby motion to formally assess the tribe's Pennsylvania property and task the land department with its management, and request that the land department produce a report of its assessment to tribal council no later than February 1st, 2019. The second motion. I hereby motion to ascertain the terms of the 2016 Madura settlement and request that the White Earth Legal Department produce a report to tribal council no later than January 1, 2019. The third motion. I hereby motion to call for a special meeting on the Madura settlement no later than February 1, 2019, and request that the White Earth Land Department and Legal Department make a formal presentation to the tribal council on the property and any potential legal reconsiderations related to Madura. Now, I want to note that we are a nation that is moving forward. There are some other items that I have not included on this report, but I think that need to be mentioned, Mr. Chairman. The first is that as I mentioned, that the GRE has cashed in the letter of credit for just over $1 million. Now, just last week, we had passed a resolution in an attempt to extend the letter of credit, which would cost us $10,000. The purpose of that was to allow for us time to dispute the ESA. But seeing as how they've went ahead and done that, my recommendation to the tribal council at this time and last week is to reconsider our relationship, our banking relationship with Bremer Bank, because each fiscal year we process over $200 million through that bank, and they're willing to compromise that relationship over just over $1 million. The other thing is we need to, and I will, after my report, I will make a motion to rescind the resolution and to contact parties about the LOC extension being canceled. Finally, there is some questions about if the community council down here is entitled to travel pay from here going up to White Earth. I believe that was a concern that Ms. Hart had. She wanted to be reimbursed. Is she here? You're wanting to be reimbursed. So I do have a question for you,
Yes.
if you will. Do you guys have fundings available within your thing to be able to have an authorized expenditure for travel?
No, we don't. Like I said, we have a budget of $1,000 a year.
Okay, okay.
And
So-
we would prefer to put that back into the community.
Yeah, okay. So for future purposes, I would like to maybe have prior approval if permitted. That way it keeps things clear, okay? And so I will also make a motion at this time to, after I'm done here, to have you reimbursed, okay? But for future purposes, if you guys, the community council can submit a letter of request or something, that way the full tribal council can have that approved, okay? Because we do have, we do have folks.
Are we talking about the quarterly meetings then?
Yes,
Is that
ma'am.
what we're talking
Yeah,
about?
we're talking about the quarterly meetings. So, I mean, part of our rules and regulations require us, in order for us to expend funds, is to have it approved by the full body. And so I just can't say, oh, I'm gonna pay you. We, as a body, we have to authorize that, okay?
Question.
Yep.
How far in advance do you need a request? I mean, I just want to make sure we are all on the same page. So.
Sure, I would say, I think a reasonable response would be maybe like the month beforehand. That way you know who's gonna come.
30 days.
Yeah. Sure. All right. So, at this time, Mr. Chairman, I will make my first motion.
Yes.
Just one, okay, one more.
We didn't know, sometimes we don't have a month advance when they schedule the quarterly meeting.
Okay.
So whenever we get the notice is when we can
Sure.
send in a request.
So what I'll do in my next newsletter, I will publish out every day that the quarterly meetings are. Right now, I can tell you, if you look at the Constitution, they're in there. They're constitutionally mandated for us to be on specific days. So the tribal council can't pick and choose when these quarterly meetings are gonna happen. We have to have them on specific days. But I will publish those dates for you. Okay? Mr. Chairman, at this time, I wish to make a motion to rescind the letter of credit extension resolution. I say again, I make a motion to rescind the letter of credit resolution.
All right, we do have a motion by Alan to rescind the letter of credit
Extension.
yeah.
Second, Chair.
We have a second by Raymond. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Silence? Move forward.
All right, Mr. Chairman, Marcy, what was the amount of that travel expenditure?
I never received the amount. I just submitted it with the mileage and for the hotel expenditure. Yes.
Okay, so,
They didn't send that to me.
okay,
They usually, the finance figures that out. We send in what we did and then I send the receipt and the mileage and they figure it out.
so what I'll do is I'll check with our CFO, and then next Tuesday, when I have the exact amount, I'll make a motion to have it approved, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. And the last thing, Mr. Chairman, is I believe we have some tarot workers at the RBC that we need to, they weren't provided holiday holiday pay or something.
I think the Carroll program itself was scheduled in the hours there. I talked to Sandy.
Yeah, there's a policy in place.
Policy in place that, you know, if they're scheduled to work, they gotta work, you know, regardless of holiday pay or not, yeah. So it is just, it's not overtime, it's scheduled hours.
Okay, well, that answers my question. That's all I have at this time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Ellen, for your report. Are we gonna publish that financial report? Okay.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this memo will
This
be.
will all be published in our White Earth Reservation today, so it will be available for everybody, all members.
Okay, we'll be on our irrigation.
Everyone, yeah, so,
How big is that property in Pennsylvania?
240 some acres, isn't it? I don't know, it's 176.
It's
170, yeah.
So what we're doing is there's an assessment that's gonna come out, and they're required to provide us with all the details on February 1, and that'll be publicly available.
117 surface acres and 80 some, you know, like
We go check it out sometime if we wanted then.
Sure, if you wanna go up, we'll go.
Camp out.
Long ride,
We did take a look at that property. It's about half mile, around a half mile or so from a drill pad. And so there's, I don't want to speculate what's under there or anything like that. That's why we formally requested land to take care of that. And so when they're ready to bring that report forward, everyone will have the same information. Everyone will
We
have.
took pictures and some video of out there, so.
There's about 6 wellheads near there.
Under the other government project, the second paragraph, it states, going to the second page, White Earth RBC and White Earth tribal members review to ensure that funds have been properly spent in accordance with accounting procedures and our administrative plans.
Yep.
Who do these, the White Earth tribal members, do you mean all of White Earth community members are a part of that, or who is a part of that?
So when you look at the Constitution and our bylaws, this language is directly from those documents. So White Earth as a tribe, we have to expend these funds according to what's written there. But any tribal member is entitled to that information, is what it means. And we're mandated to report these numbers to you. We are mandated to. And if you ever have a financial request or whatever, you may request that from the administration, and we will provide that. And it doesn't matter where you live, so long as you're a tribal member. It doesn't matter where you live.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Yes, ma'am.
Anybody else have any questions or comments on financial report?
Does that also utilize if we want to observe about, for example, that cannabis field in Callaway and the money that was directed towards that? Or the other cannabis fields in north of the reservation? The financial statements of that?
So are you requesting a report on those particular projects at this time?
By making the assumption that you're proclaiming that you want transparency.
Can we do that?
As a council.
Yeah. But can you come and request it? I'll chase it down for you guys. If whatsoever we've expended monies on that particular project, I'll be happy to look into it.
Right. Well, because there's I'll try to talk to you about that later.
Okay.
I don't think there was no travel fund spent on it, it was a grant that we utilized for a pilot program.
Well, there was $100,000 that was utilized for that Callaway field. And then I was just learned that this summer that field was never harvested and it went to dead, but it did reseed the field. And Winona Ladue was allowed to harvest that field. And so she gained the profits off of that harvest?
So I don't want to answer something I don't have the answer to in front of me right now, but I will. Are you making a formal request for any sort of expenditures the tribe has had with that project?
Well, any project pertaining to cannabis growth on the reservation, I'm requesting.
Okay, I will talk to you after we're done with the meeting, and I'll get your contact information.
Thank you. Also, a question I have, and forgive me, how am I able to get, like I heard you guys are passing out information, how can I find that so I can utilize my programs to go over those documents too?
Sure. So there are, every document that's in front of me right now is on a table behind you, just outside that door. But if you have a specific request, I can have one of our administrative assistants be in touch with you and provide it to you electronically.
Thank you.
IT department. All right, let's move on here. We got new business, veterans resolution.
Okay, I guess I'm gonna ask, read the veterans resolution. Whereas resolution number 001-19-006. The White Earth Reservation Business Committee is a duly elected governing body of the White Earth Reservation pursuant to Article 6, Section 1 of the revised Constitution and bylaws of the Minneapolis MN Tribe, as amended and organized under Section 16 of the Act of June 18, 1934. And the White Earth Reservation Business Committee takes this opportunity on Veterans Day, November 11, 2018, to thank our veterans for their service and all that they do for our communities. And this resolution will also be known as a Veteran Service Member and Veteran Family Care Resolution. And whereas we recognize our veterans as resilient, focused, disciplined, and caring members of our communities who encapsulate our 7 grandfathers' teachings, respect truth, honesty, humility, bravery, love, and wisdom, and the RBC expresses our deepest gratitude to our veterans and their families for their sacrifices, and the RBC willingly acknowledges that American Indians serve in the armed forces at a higher per capita rate than all other groups in the United States of America. And whereas the RBC takes great pride in honoring our veterans on this day, and we recognize our brave men and women who have sacrificed through their service so that others may realize a life of freedom. Therefore, be it resolved that the RBC hereby expresses its honor and appreciation to our veterans through our commitment to assisting them in accessing all necessary medical services, housing, employment, counseling, and other needs, as well as assessing any and all entitlements to which each veteran is entitled. For the purpose of this resolution, the RBC recognizes laws administered by the United States Department of Veterans Affairs and also applicable laws affecting veterans, and unless otherwise specified by the revised Constitution and bylaws of the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe or by RBC bylaws, this resolution specifies eligible benefits and policies for employees, elected officials, and public. And military leave. Each fiscal year, full-time employees, elected officials on a permanent appointment are entitled to 15 days, 120 hours of mandatory training period leave or military leave with pay to perform active duty training or annual training. Part-time employees and elected officials are entitled to military leave prorated according to the number of hours regularly worked. And this policy will be retroactively applied to fiscal year 2018 and return to employment after active duty. Full-time employees called to active duty will retain their employment. At the conclusion of service, employees will generally have the right to return to the same position held or to a similar position with years of service, rate of pay, and benefits remaining the same. And service-connected disability leave. Each fiscal year, full-time employees and elected officials under permanent appointment are entitled to 40 hours of service-connected disability leave as documented by the United States Department of Veterans Administration. Part-time employees and elected officials are entitled to service-connected disability leave as documented by the USDVA, prorated according to the number of hours regularly worked. Service-connected disability leave may be used by a spouse or documented caregiver employed by the tribe to give care for a service-connected disabled veteran. And service-connected disability leave may be used without regard to a veteran's enrollment status or employment status with the tribe, and this policy will be retroactively applied to fiscal year 2018. And be it further resolved that the RBC reiterates its policies that currently provide preferences in hiring and retention of veterans, and additional preference for special disabled veterans. Priority for veterans and special disabled veterans affects employment, recruiting, hiring, and retaining, training, development, transfers to promotions, and reductions in force. And veterans' preference and benefits. To qualify for veteran preference under these provisions and all other benefits in this resolution, a veteran must possess a discharge under honorable conditions. Veteran or special disabled veteran preference shall apply to any active employee or applicant for the purpose of employment, transfers and or advancement opportunities, and appropriate documentation of veteran or special disabled veteran's preference includes discharge orders. Member copy 4 of the DD 214, summary of benefits letter from the United States Department of Veterans Administration or an Armed Forces Retirement Board showing a service-connected disability. And special disabled veteran, for the purpose of employment and all other benefits in this resolution, a special disabled veteran is considered one, a veteran of the United States military, ground, naval, or air service who is entitled to compensation, or who, but for the receipt of military retired pay, would be entitled to compensation under laws administered by the United States Department of Veterans Administration for a disability. Rated at 30% or more, or B, rated at 10 or 20% in the case of a veteran who has been determined to have a serious employment handicap, or a person who was discharged or released from active duty because of a service-connected disability and compensation, and special disabled veteran hiring authority. If an applicant or transferring employee meets the minimum qualifications for a job description and meets the definition of a special disabled veteran, a non-competitive special disabled veteran hiring authority appointment may occur and bypass the selection process after interviews are conducted, and with the assistance of human resources, special disabled veteran hiring authority appointments occur at the discretion of hiring managers, and all jobs are subject to this policy. And individual unemployability and veteran spouse interviews. If a veteran spouse meets the minimum qualification for a job and the veteran has received a total disability rating based on individual unemployability by the United States Department of Veterans Administration, the spouse will be provided an interview with any other applicants and be provided treatment as a special disabled veteran. And if a special disabled veteran has a total disability rating by the United States Department of Veterans Administration and is determined unemployable, a spouse will be provided an interview with any other applicants and be provided treatment as a special disabled veteran if the spouse meets the minimum qualifications for a job. And these provisions qualify an eligible spouse for special disabled veteran hiring authority. And, and active duty status and service member spouse interviews. If a full-time employee that is a service member is called to active duty for more than 120 consecutive days, a spouse will be provided treatment for employment purposes as a veteran if a copy of official military orders are produced, and this same provision applies to any tribal member that is a spouse of a service member, even if the service member is not a full-time employee or has no employment with the tribe or its entities. And the treatment will expire once the service member is discharged from active duty status. And Purple Heart or Medal of Honor citations. If an applicant or transferring employee meets the minimum qualifications for a job and possesses a Purple Heart citation or Medal of Honor citation as indicated on a member 4 copy of the double D 214, the veteran will be provided an interview with any other applicants and calculation of hiring points for the purpose of hiring points. 5 points shall be awarded for providing documentation of veteran status, with up to an additional 5 points for special disabled veteran status based on percentage of disability as documented by the United States Department of Veterans Administration. 40% 1 point, 50% 2 points, 60% 3 points, 70% 4 points, and 80% or greater 5 points. And Indian preference applies to all jobs in addition to veteran preference and disabled veteran preference as outlined above. And be it further resolved for Purple Heart recipients, Medal of Honor recipients, or special disabled veterans that are enrolled in White Earth as tribal members, the following benefits apply. Fee waivers are waived for tribal identification cards, license plates, game tags, harvest permits, and land leases. And the RBC shall provide services to eligible veterans for snow plowing, lawn mowing, free of charge regardless of income status or age. And fee waivers for spouses and dependents. Eligible fee waivers are provided to a spouse and dependent under the age of 18, and waivers are provided to dependents that have a severe handicap documented by a medical provider regardless of age. And be it further resolved, for all veterans that are enrolled in White Earth as tribal members, the following benefits apply. Veteran constituent services. Effective October 1st, 2019, and every subsequent fiscal year, the RBC will provide an annual contribution of $20,000 to the constituent program solely for eligible veterans and their dependents to access and utilize for purposes established by the program's guidelines. and the veteran must possess a discharge under honorable conditions, and the benefit is available to veterans regardless of income status, disability status, or age, and all other veteran benefits, tribal, federal, state, etc., do not affect this benefit and do not affect program eligibility requirements. And Veterans Court, no later than October 1st of 2020, the White Earth Tribal Court and Judicial Services will establish a Veterans Court. And public transportation, any veteran with a service-connected disability may use public transportation free of charge. And veteran identification card and promotions, no later than January 1st of 2019, the Shooting Star Casino will make available a Native American Veteran Identification Card or decal on existing cards. The benefit is available to an eligible veteran or service member enrolled in any federally recognized tribe, and it is subject to all applicable casino policies, and appropriate documentation of veteran or service member status includes the discharge orders. And an unexpired VA identification card or an unexpired official military identification card. And the benefit will provide a 20% discount on meals and gift shop purchase, and subject to availability, the benefit provides up to 2 free rooms a month at any Shooting Star Casino hotel for veteran-friendly promotions. And homeless veteran benefit, subject to program guidelines effective October 1st of 2019 and in coordination with the White Earth Constituent Program, a veteran actively enrolled in the White Earth Homeless Prevention Program is entitled to $100 per month benefit with a lifetime limit of 12 months that may be used non-consecutively, and the benefit is available to a veteran regardless of income status, disability status, or age, and all other veteran benefits, tribal, federal, state, etc., do not affect this benefit for fund disbursements. And veteran funeral benefit, effective October 1st of 2019, and in coordination with the White Earth Constituent Program, the spouse, power of attorney, designee, or designated caretaker of a deceased veteran are entitled up to a $400 funeral benefit that may be combined with other funeral benefits provided by the tribe. And the benefit is available to a veteran regardless of income status, disability status, or age, and all other veteran benefits, tribal, federal, state, etc., do not affect this benefit for fund disbursements. And tribal veteran service officer, no later than October 1st of 2019, the constituent program will create or assign a tribal veteran service officer position to assist veterans with tribal-specific applications for benefits and resources, and to provide veteran advocacy across all tribally owned and operated entities. And the Director of Human Services shall submit a relevant job description with a budget to the RBC no later than June 1st of 2019 for approval. And be it further resolved, for all veterans that are enrolled in White Earth as tribal members, the following benefits will be retroactively applied, posthumously provided, and the benefits will remain active indefinitely and applies to any and all future situations. Veterans killed in action or active prisoner of war status or missing in action status. Extends all eligible benefits and foregoing policies to a surviving spouse, dependent, or biological child for life, and a surviving spouse, dependent, or veteran service member and veteran family care resolution. Biological child will be provided treatment as a special disabled veteran for life. And veteran family surviving veteran suicide. Extends all eligible benefits and foregoing policies to the surviving spouse, dependent, or biological child for life. And the surviving spouse, dependent, or biological child will be provided treatment as a special disabled veteran for life, and the benefit is subject to a documented and variable service-connected disability provided through the United States Department of Veterans Administration with dependency and indemnity compensation status. And be it further resolved that the foregoing provisions shall be applicable to White Earth Tribal Government, Shooting Star Casino, and all other entities owned and operated by the White Earth Band of Chippewa Indians, and the policies of each entity shall be amended to reflect these policies effective November 11, 2018. And at the beginning of each fiscal year, the veteran service member and veteran family care resolution shall be reviewed for applicable amendments and changes. And be it further resolved, the RBC is committed to improving the quality of life for our veterans and their families. Is committed to the promotion of our veterans in a positive image. Is committed to assisting our veterans in healing from a military trauma, and will continue to promote the self-respect, self-confidence, and usefulness of our veterans.
Oh,
That one. Not resolution, resolution.
I have.
Yeah, so over here.
All we got left is public comment. 3 minutes allowable.
I have a question about the resolution. Does this, if I missed something somewhere, is this only for tribal members, enrolled tribal members, or children of descendants?
Right now, yeah.
How did that,
So
if you're not enrolled, but your parent is enrolled, will
so,
this include them?
so if we open the resolution, there are some benefits, like, so if you go to the first page, it talks about military leave, return to employment after active duty, service-connected disability leave. Those are, if you're certainly employed by the tribe, those extend to any of our employees, right, regardless of whatever you are. Now, when you look at the specific benefits right here, be it further resolved, Purple Heart recipients, Medal of Honor recipients, our special disabled veterans that are enrolled in White Earth as tribal members, the benefits apply. So by extension, you would have to be eligible for these benefits to begin with. So they do not create new benefits for descendants. Their benefits are created. So if you were for example, let's say here, you have here's one right here. So they have identification cards, license plates, game tags, harvest permits, land leases, so provide eligible. So you would have to be eligible for that benefit to begin with anyways. So it can't create a new benefit for a descendant. Does that make sense? It's for enrolled members. However, I'd like to add that we're trying to create a Veterans Commission by October 1 of next year. And so we want a commission of our veterans to come together and figure out what sort of changes do we want to have, right? And I think that's a discussion that we need to have down the road.
Then there's another part in there regarding the public transportation, that's page 4 of 5.
Yep.
And it says any veteran with a service-connected disability. And so as I'm reading that language, what does this imply? Do you need a documented disability? Because all veterans basically have PTSD.
No, that's not true.
Well, that's what,
That's not
unless
true.
they went to war?
No, that's not true as well. So a service-connected disability is a disability connected to your service, right? And that can range from hearing loss to a number of things. And those disabilities are identified and prescribed by a medical professional in the Department of, like the VA. When they'll issue an ID card, and on your ID card, it'll say service-connected right on it. Or you could have a summary benefits letter that'll say that you are a service-connected disabled veteran. That letter will it'll list also your percentage of disability. So you have to show documentation for these benefits. Otherwise, if you don't, then some folks may try to take advantage of it.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions on the VA resolution?
I do. On the VA thing, I implore the council, and I request if I could be part of any type of veterans group, because I myself, as a 100% disabled veteran, I have utilized cannabis to get off and I have not completely gotten off of OxyContins, but I have absolutely greatly diminished them over 80% through the use of cannabis. And I think it is absolutely vital to our veterans that we start initiating cannabis for health maintenance so we can get rid of these addictions on the reservations.
Oh, which? All right, next on the agenda, we have constitutional reform update. Pam and Leonard are both there.
Bonjour. Bakade Bede si Indigo. Ma can do a thing. Gawa Babianica can do what you want. I'm also known as Leonard Roy, and I'm a MCT advisor to the council. And I also participate with delegates updates here for the constitutional change that's happening within the Minnesota Chippewa tribe. And what I have here today is just a little update of what's been going on in White Earth. Delegate updates, District 1. Delegates are Mike Thompson and Sheila Stevens. No updates available. They may be seeking a new delegate. One meeting was scheduled, but no attendance was present. District 2. Delegates are Eugene Summers, Kathleen Straub has been meeting almost every week, almost weekly in Natowas and Monoman. Just over 50 people in attendance at one meeting. District 3. Delegates are Mike Swan, Evelyn Bellinger. First round was held in Pine Point, then White Earth and Callaway. These are informal meetings to provide attendance with information on the MCT Constitution. Approximately 15 to 20 people attended. Second round of meetings will start next week to get input from members on what they would like to see. Iron Range. Delegate is Louis Johansson, using community council meetings as an avenue to keep people informed about 8 tribal members present. Leech Lake. Delegate is Julian Donnell. First meeting was held last night. No updates available. Metro area. Delegate is Sybil Gund. First meeting was held Tuesday night. No updates available. At large.
Yeah, we were
So
here.
maybe she can give
Well, she's got one, yes, we appreciate that. At large is Ray Belcourt. No updates available. Primary concerns heard. What are the dangers of separating for the MCT? 2, what are the pros and cons of removing the Secretary of Interior from our Constitution? 3, why aren't we using other native blood in MCT enrollment process? 4, concerns expressed over the MCT land base. What would happen to the MCT land if 6 bands separated? 5, how would our sovereignty or federal recognition be affected? Needs. How can we reach more tribal members? More education materials are needed. Mike Swan, District 3 delegate, is only person who has posted meeting minutes for updates. Any attorney or Department of Interior representative at meetings would help the unanswered questions. Issues heard. Low turnout for meetings. How do we get more people involved? Lack of understanding of the MCT Constitution as a whole. FYI, a White Earth delegate Facebook page has been started as an effort to keep people informed. Next MCT delegate meeting is scheduled for January 18, 2019 in Hinckley with all 6 bands. That's my update.
January 18th.
January 18th.
When's the next meeting?
January 18th.
Where, what, where?
Hinckley.
That's for all the delegates.
Gotta go out there. Where you at?
And it's an open one, so anyone can go?
Yes.
Strongly encourage.
Yes. Strongly encourage participation.
What time?
10
Uh,
to 4. 10 to 4.
Was it 10 to 4?
Yeah, to 4.
Yes.
10-4.
Last quarterly meeting, I was informed, excuse me, about the delegates for the Constitution. And I called the RTC to find out how I could do this. And they directed me to an employment app on the website, which is non-navigationable for someone in my situation. And I called trying to leave messages about how I can be involved with the Constitution reform, and I have not received any. I've been trying to be involved with the Constitution reform since Gerald Visner was involved, how many years ago? So how, it seems like there is a need for people to be involved, and I have nothing but time.
Welcome to come to the delegation meetings.
Yeah, everybody's welcome. I mean, it's just that the delegates are gonna take the information from the members, and then they're gonna get together with the other 5 bands with their 10 delegates with our information, and then they're gonna try to figure out what our needs are to change the Constitution. But everybody's welcome.
Now, is there a post and a pre-constitution that we're utilizing? Because I recall in my files, I have like 3 or 4 different ones. So where is the standard that we're starting from?
Well, it's like understanding the document. I mean, the Constitution, you could probably find it on the MCT Facebook page or their website, I believe.
Plus, they're available at all the delegate meetings. Or they should be. We printed out a lot of copies.
Yeah.
I wonder if we can maybe think about some kind of educational, intentional workshops or something to start having around communities or something where we can get somebody in college maybe. Anybody who's interested to learn more about the Constitution.
I think Doug, you're one of the delegates, right?
No,
He's
an alternate.
You're an alternate, so we have primaries and we have alternates, and Sybil is one of our delegates down here. And so a lot of our delegates are really, really putting in a lot of work, and even the alternates are. And, you know, they're making these meetings happen. I know District 2 is very, very active with their constitutional delegation. And so it's a work in progress, you know, but I would like to hear what Sybil, did you have any, because you guys said you just met yesterday?
Tuesday night, yeah.
How'd that go?
On the 4th. Well, we only had like 8 people. We
More
only
turnout.
had 8 people. And I thought it was a really good meeting, very good discussion. We covered a lot of the information from this question spacing the MCT Constitution.
Yeah, here we go.
You gotta speak louder.
So basically, what we went over was the reservation still wants to be under the Minnesota Chippewa tribe. We're not going to separate. We don't want that. Each reservation wants to separate. So we're going to talk about that. I'm just going over the 8 things we went over on the meeting. Each reservation wants to develop their own constitution. BIA wants to remove the Secretary of Interior from the present constitution. We want to talk about protecting the people, the separation of powers, and enrollments. And that was gone over.
Well, can I also add, Sybil, can I add something?
Yeah.
So this, a lot of these provisions that were just discussed, like the Secretary of Interior language, the independent courts, those are gonna be discussed at the next special meeting in Hinckley. And all folks are invited to come. And so it's a discussion. I don't anticipate a vote happening. But what I do I anticipate as a TDC member is that folks are going to be discussing this. My position, as I've listened to our band membership, is that a lot of folks are a little worried about just jumping headfirst into the interior, you know, removing the interior, mainly because they want to have a protection from the tribe or the government, right, to protect tribal members' rights. And so that's gonna be part of the conversation that happens on the 18th. I would personally like to see independent courts implemented before that happens. And so that way our members have an outlet if they have a grievance against whatever the tribe is doing or what the MCT is doing. That'll be very important, very, very, very important. And so that discussion will also happen on the 18th. And I'm pushing for, I'm hoping for, I've talked to quite a few MCT, TEC members, and they want to have a discussion on this. They want to hear from what the delegates are saying. And I think that's really important that we hear from our delegates and all people for that matter.
Plus, I think those questions were from the meeting in Blackbear with all of the 6 hands.
It was a handout.
Yeah, the consensus of questions.
But otherwise, the meeting was good. I didn't hear it, we were like, just trying to get everybody to show up, and,
Turnout is key.
people are expressing a lot of comments and stuff online, and, a lot of it's negative, but at least they're, because they're not coming to meetings, so at least they're saying something, so it's good to read comments and see what people's, concerns are, because they're not coming to the meetings. We have to hear from everybody. We have, how many members?
Voice matters.
But not everybody has social media either. So we're talking about how to reach out to people who aren't on social media, the elderly, so nobody has home phones anymore.
I have a question. When I first saw this online for delegates, I assumed that there was a clear directive for the delegates to go over the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe revised constitution. Instead, it sounds like when I'm a delegate for the White Earth Constitution, and a lot of the development of White Earth Constitution, a lot of these questions were already asked. And it seems like coming back to the MPC revised constitution, which is already written, I thought that the directive was to go through that and update the constitution and not to be asking all these other questions, because it's almost like spinning your wheels because they're not going to be answered.
I think that's a very, very valid point. When we first started the conversation about the delegates, and I remember the delegates are still talking about it, they self-formed, they formed themselves. Our tribal council did not appoint anyone or pick anyone. We just said, hey, look, we need 10 delegates, and the people figured it out. But there are some folks out there that want certain things changed, and there's some folks that want other things changed, right? And that's totally understandable. And that's a natural thing that'll happen in a delegation. But I will say this, the opportunity to change this constitution, when you think about it strategically and politically, the window is very narrow. In 2020, we're having elections, and half the TEC is up for election. Now, for us to pass an amendment to the Constitution or change the Constitution, we need 8 confirmative votes from the TEC to do that. And so the type of change that the delegation may want to make, or a TEC member might want to make, my recommendation to the delegation would be to choose maybe 1 or 2 things that you just want to go after. And I think low-hanging fruit at this time would be independent courts, right? Now, if I had to do one thing alone, if I would recommend that to the delegation, is to talk about independent courts and focus in on that. I know the TEC has talked about it, and we're willing to consider it, but we want to be able to work with the delegation, right? I talked to Melanie, and I talked to Norm, I've talked to a lot of those other guys, even up in Kevin Dupis, right? He said, well, what do you guys want to do with this thing? I mean, everyone wants to be a winner, right? Everyone wants to do good things. Everyone wants to get something passed, right? And that's something that the TEC is going to have to work with, and that's something that the delegation is going to have to work with. And somewhere in between, we'll figure it out. But we just got to work together on it, that's all.
But Alan, there was a clear directive, I thought, to work on the revised MPC constitution to go by it and update it to, because there's a lot of stuff in that Constitution that really doesn't apply today.
Yeah.
And this is what I thought that they needed to do, and what you're talking about are the courts. And if they're not, the way that it should be for today, then that needs to be revised. Not changed, but revised.
That first constitution wasn't even written by us.
One of the main things that come up when we're discussing this is, do we rewrite the Constitution or do we amend it?
Yes.
Well, now that was put into the hands of that's where we formed the committees, to decide, do we want to rewrite this Constitution or do we want to amend it? So that's up to the delegates, whether they want to rewrite the Constitution or if they just want to amend it. In my eyes, I feel it should be rewrote.
But if it's to be rewritten, then we should start it with the Declaration of Sovereignty.
Exactly.
And mimic it off of the Declaration of Independence and write a Declaration of Sovereignty. And I do absolutely believe the first thing that we should do is get rid of the slave named Chippewa and go back to Anishinaabe.
Well, another thing with that is do the tribes independently write their own constitutions, or do we stay under the MCT? In order to get out from under the MCT, it's got to be an act of Congress. So it's almost as though we're tied into that unless we can get as separate tribes to get Congress to say, okay, we're going to let you out of this MCT deal. So that's another deal that has to come up with you, the delegates.
Wouldn't you think that the minute that we make the proclamation that we are not Chippewa, that we are Anishinaabe, then that there nullifies any treaty whatsoever, and we start back at square one with our sovereignty? Because that's the slave name they gave us.
Well, as a matter of practicality, my recommendation to the delegation is to talk with your folks and talk with your people and figure out what we want to do. There is no clear mandate from the TEC. If you look at the delegation, it's not even recognized in the Constitution. This is the people coming together on its own and pushing for change.
Shouldn't there be a clear mandate, because we're not going to get anywhere with it?
Well, there's a clear mandate coming from White Earth. So we have authorized a resolution with $20,000 to fund our delegates. We have committed dollars to this. And so White Earth has a very strong position. We want to see change. Now, I can't speak for the other bands. I can't. And I can't even speak for the Minnesota Chippewa tribe entirely. But White Earth has taken a stand. We support our delegation, whoever they are, no matter who they are, to do this work. And the other thing I want to stress is that don't assume that this has to happen overnight. It's going to be a multi-year process. It's going to take time. And I wouldn't try to do everything all at once, because you're just going to get burnt out. The other thing is folks are going to come and folks are going to go. That's life, right? That's life. People are going to come and people are going to go. But the fact is that we're working on it and we're having movement. And it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect.
It's not going to be perfect. But the thing is, I thought that there was a time limit.
No. No. White Earth has taken a stand. We have committed $20,000 for the year. And, we'll see what happens next year. Like, we're going to request, if the delegation needs stuff, we'll work with them. White Earth has taken a very, very, actually, I would argue that White Earth is much further ahead than some of the other tribes and the other bands on constitution reform, especially our delegation. We're much further ahead than the others from the conversations I've had, which is a credit to the work that you guys are doing. It's an absolute credit. You're doing great work.
That's why I mentioned that, this is a history-making event here. Since 1936, we never had a chance to take a look openly at our Constitution. Now we got the right to move forward. This is we're taking into our own hands to amend this thing. But we got almost 19,000 members.
Yeah.
Some of these meetings, there's 8 people showing up, there's 20 people showing up. So we now got to get involved, get our people together, get them back to the table, and get them being proactive in the communities out there,
this is gonna affect all of us. You know, the other thing is, once we move through at White Earth side, we're gonna have to face Beach Lake, Grand Portage, Williamsburg, Mille Lacs, and put it all in the pot again. It's, you know, it's gonna be a living document that's gonna be there for, we can't set it in stone right now, because there's needs that have to be met.
Concerning the delegation, you've got 6 of the 7 Chippewa tribes involved in this. What does Red Lake do? What's their position in all this stuff?
Because they're going through their own constitutional change.
Right, so they got their own, but they're an independent nation already. Can we look at that as an example of how White Earth and the others can do it? Or is it constant, are we stuck under this federal law that we can't break it up now?
And I think it's a terrific question that the delegation is gonna have to work through. And if you guys need support from us, we'll be happy to assist in that process. That's a terrific question.
Because it has been requested that attorneys meet with the delegation to answer questions. Because if you ask a question to somebody, you might get 5 different answers. So that's one of the requests, or I didn't mean 5, but.
That's always the problem with anything you get into, is that it's the perspective of the person talking, and their perspective may be entirely different than that's what happens in politics all the time.
What's our number compared to everyone else? Like, how much do we take up in the Minnesota Fund? A lot, isn't it? We're what, 20,000 members? And then
We're over 51% of the entire Minnesota Chippewa tribe.
that's why it's so important.
The way the Constitution is written, we have to include everybody, all 6 bands in this. Otherwise, we're gonna be stuck with the past history of one band writing a constitution, and then you got the federal government saying, oh, wait a minute now, you know, you didn't include these other folks. Even though we are the majority of the Minnesota Chippewa tribe, you still have to include, you know, other bands, Chippewas, Anishinaabe.
But one of the arguments would be, I would think, we are, you know, in Minnesota, we've got 7 bands of Chippewa. One of them is already independent. Can't somehow that be looked at from the standpoint of bringing in lawyers and saying, hey, we have a band over here that's never been involved in this. How are they doing? Why can't the other ones be like that?
I think our status is, the Minnesota Chippewa tribe is, we're a consolidated. We're not a confederate. And Red Lake, I believe, would be considered a confederate with their own constitution, but we're not.
That's an example of how White Earth and others want to be.
They're a closed reservation.
But see, that's an avenue we could take, you know, I mean,
But the other-
without the legal perspective and the recognition from the federal government, where would we be at if we just said, oh, we're all just gonna break away and we're gonna be our own, and but what happens to that federal recognition if we do that? If we're recognized as the 6 bands under the Minnesota Chippewa tribe, consolidated, if we break away, what happens with that recognition? Do we still get that federal backing? Do we still get recognized as a tribe?
Does Red Lake get recognized?
Red Lake
Lake
is
recognized?
yes.
Then that's what you look at as an example.
I'm not saying we can't, I'm just saying that
As
it's a
per
long
usual.
road, you know, before we get to actually changing the Constitution to the needs of 40,000. You know, right now we're at no separations of powers, no checks and balance. We have one government body dictating to the rest of us on how we're gonna live. And I think we need to work towards how we are gonna live together. You know, are we gonna live together as one body government? Are we gonna work towards something that's freer, you know, where we all get to decide rather than 12 members at the TEC dictating to us? It's been going on for years, 1980.
We can't feed the hungry children of Red Lake, but we can feed the hungry children in White Earth. We need to start local and start as an example. That's why I say if we proclaim that we're Anishinaabe, and then what if the entire Anishinaabe people from White Earth all the way to the East Coast all started claiming the original name? And then we united that way under the title of Anishinaabe. Then we
I
start
don't have
talking
all
about-
the answers. You know, I can tell you that right now. I've been involved in this process for many, many years now, 30 years or so, and I wish I did have the answers. You know?
I think it's important to keep in mind that we have to have this in place because we know they want our land. So we can't just be we'll lose funding, but we need to not do it out, and we have to have this in place so they can't just constantly do what they want to do. Don't forget that.
There was discussion at the last TEC meeting about the land under the MCT. And my understanding was that the TEC wanted to give back White Earth, was it 55,000 acres of land? And the BIA shows up and says, you can't do that. You know, there's some law or something saying that the MCT just can't turn it over. I think stuff like that has to be looked into and say, why? Isn't that our land at White Earth? Isn't that our treaty of 1867 that will proclaim that land ours? I mean, that's questions that we need to ask and be answered.
Do we currently have any court cases with the federal government about our initial sovereignty rights?
That's a good question.
You have nothing?
Treaty authority know that? The treaty authority know that?
I'll file something.
If we look at the United States Constitution, treaties are the supreme law of the land.
Right?
And when we could go all the way back as far to say, well, what happened in 1934? Why did we all become a federally recognized Indian tribe? Did they take us out of the U.S. Constitution and say, because you are now a federally recognized Indian tribe, we get to rule over you. We get to decide how much Indian you're gonna be. I mean, those are questions we can go way back to and try to get answers to.
Well, according to the federal constitution, which is part of what we abide by, it says that we have the right to a jury trial. And no trial of our peers was ever utilized because it's against the law to take more than $20 away from us. We have the right to a jury trial. So right now, we could just file a motion of habeas corpus and go against the federal government and say, hey, all of these treaties are void because it wasn't done constitutionally with the jury trial. That's simple.
There we go.
All right. Good. Yeah, it's good now.
The bridge.
Yep, the bridge there. Yeah. The only thing left on the agenda is public comment, limit to 3 minutes. Al?
My name is Al Paulson. I'm obviously a White Earth member, but I just wanted to make some comments concerning, I want to commend the council for the work they're doing with folks and community members, White Earth members, and also the urban council for what they're doing with the folks and helping them with their problems. White Earth, what they're doing with their problems, the amount of money and the devotion that we have towards helping our people with their problems. My thing is, I want to help people that don't have the problems and keep them out of the problem area. Because we spend all our time about problems. There's a lot of people out there that don't have problems, and we want to make sure they don't have problems by giving them programs, junior achievement, sports programs, educational programs, things for them to do when they're younger guys and girls before they get to the point where they get problems. And they get problems because they have nothing else to do.
Right. Good job. Anybody else? Not, we'll ask for a motion.
I got a couple things.
Me too. Go ahead,
3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Okay, so one thing, the first thing, last quarterly, we were asking some questions of economic development, and Michael Neusser, and he said, come in anytime, bring Kevin in whenever you want to our office, to my office, you know. Kevin's been trying to call him ever since. He hasn't returned any phone calls of his, any emails. I went there in his office and he said, oh, you want my card? Here's my card. Send me an email. I got time. So, still no response. That's the first thing. The next thing, I would like to process hemp. Okay, I don't even have to grow it. If you guys would just like let me process it, the state gives a certificate to people to process. I can buy it and have it shipped here and then process it and make something out of it and try to make something for my family and my community, maybe do some jobs off the real. Do it, and not just talk about it all the time, right? If you guys will let me. The state doesn't have jurisdiction on the reservation. They can't certify me. They said it's up to you guys. So they're certifying other people to process in the state, but I can't do it because I'm on the reservation. I need you guys to let me. So if you guys can certify me, that'd be awesome. Think about that. The other thing.
Gujuan Nin, Nese, Indigenica Jibwem, Kevin Richard Shores, Indigenica Jaganashi Mook, Moorhead, Minnesota, Minnewa, Gawababigani Kagan, Dunjiba, Minnewa, Dunde, Makwadan Dunde, Minnewa, Nindo Gichida, Chimigwich, Ape Gish Bima Daziwe, we and Miigwich Gichimanadu. Hello and hi. I prefer to be called Nese, and I'm here from Moorhead. We woke up this morning to come here again to be honored to be speaking in front of you. And I want to believe and I want to think that you as the council are here for not just me, but the Anishinaabe. And I have tried over the years, and I've said this many times, in 2004, I did a 2.5-hour presentation at the tribal college, and I promised them within 7 years, 15,000 jobs from growing cannabis on the reservation. And it fell on deaf ears. And I continue to implore and beg of you for the people to initiate this and quit lollygagging and just doing it. By all rights afforded to us, we have the right to utilize a plant for its benefit. It's that simple. Anishinaabe natural rule, natural law. There's over 100,000 byproducts that can be made from the cannabis plant. And now I think we're up to about 25,000, 30,000 jobs from anywhere from birthing centers and to having a death center to where our elders can die with dignity and not out of their gourd on horrific pain medications. So when they pass from this existence, they do it in a good and natural way. And when our mothers give birth to their children, they utilize cannabis and not these horrific synthetic drugs. And the addictions on the reservations that can get rid of through the use of cannabis. It is a no-brainer. I've tried to talk to Michael Neusser. I've talked to Jordan, the gentleman who was hired for $50,000 for a job that I talked to him for an hour and a half. And at the end of the conversation, he said, why weren't you hired for this job? And I said, I was never even notified of the job, even though Michael Neusser knows me, as you all know me. And so I beg of you that this cannabis thing, Jordan, I'm sorry. No. Okay. And I'm sorry, and please forgive me for my frustration of this, but I would like to die with dignity utilizing cannabis on the reservation in a veteran's grade, old school style. So I've said it time and time again, utilize me because I've been with the cannabis for 27 years. And lastly,
We have 3-minute limit on it, public comment.
Can I say one more thing about the wild rice?
No.
The GA?
Yep.
I was told that the tribe bought wild rice for $2 a pound unfinished. As a disabled person, I was given a price of $6.90 a pound. And then I was told regular enrollees were given a price of almost $9 a pound. Where does all of that profit go? And why are we not, as enrollees, given free wild rice? It is for us. It's the whole reason why we're here
Prophecy.
in Minnesota. So where does all of that wild rice profit go?
It costs $7.48 a pound to process it.
By the time you hit the finished
By the
product.
time we buy it, transport it to get it finished, transport it back, bag it, costs $7.48 a pound. We got it invested in it.
Can we formally request those numbers?
Pardon?
Can we formally request those numbers?
Sure.
Is there any way?
We're not, what we're doing is utilizing our dollars to help our end processors, or the harvesters. That's the time of year that our families are going out, getting school clothes, filling their fuel tanks, buying wood. So we're giving them an outlet for their wild rice. Otherwise, they'd be selling it to some other organization. We don't have to buy wild rice. So that's why we have a season. People can go out and harvest their own. But first and foremost, we're targeting our elders and our disabled also that can't go out there and get those. So that's why we have a reduction in cost on the finished product there. We do have a contract with USDA at 25,000 pounds. I think that dollar amount was around $12 a pound. So that money's coming back in and reinvested into next year's stockpile there. So we continue buying this rice. I think we bought almost 200,000 pounds of green rice this year. So I mean, that's all the numbers are in finance. You want to look at things, just give us a call.
In 2008, I'm sorry.
Pardon?
In 2008, I was contacting cities in China and talking about sister cities in China to where we would trade our wild rice with them and they would give us cannabis fabric. Because you can't beat China when it comes to producing the cannabis fabric, or commonly called hemp. And so, I mean, China is really, really interested in our wild rice. And they're willing to pay top dollar for it too.
All right, big words.
Would council please address some of these?
I'll come talk to you afterwards, so I'll get your contact information.
Anybody else got any public comment?
Mine would be concerning wild rice. I've got a little history on that one. When I was in college, I used to go up north with my grandma LeDuc, and we did some ricing. And we'd come in with the canoe, and the canoe was full, and we'd sell it. Guys in the shoreline in trucks would be buying it for $2, $2.50. So I said to my grandma, I said, well, who can do this? Well, you can't, but you're going to lose about damn near 40% of it when you process it. I started doing that. I bought it from the people. I had a business, and I'm in college myself, where I would sell this as an Indian guy to the top restaurants in the Twin Cities. They'd love to buy wild rice from me because they'd sell it at the Criteria and different places. I'd sell that stuff for $6 and $7 a pound, but I had to process it. But yeah, there's about 50% cost in doing this stuff, plus going up and getting it. I understand the business. It's a nice business, but you lose a lot of that stuff when you get it off the line. But we've got the best wild rice. We still use it, but it's got to be processed.
I wonder if we could educate how to finish, then the ricers have better opportunity to make more money.
Is it finished on the reservation? Or does it have to be exported?
Those are always finished on reservation. Problem is, we just lost one of our our finishers last week, Sunfish Upperguard, who processed a lot of rice for us. Russell Warren was another one that did live rice for us. So we've been utilizing the Wandlers and Burhart, Jim Burhart. So they've been doing a great job for us. A and B wild rice over at Cass Lake. They can do a huge amount. It's wood parched, very clean rice. We end up with a
Is
good
it,
end product.
is it possible that we could start like a co-op? Where as an enrollee, if you were to volunteer time to help finishing, that you would be able to get free rice? Or even if you volunteered time with elders or had some kind of compassion rice benefit?
I think anything is possible. I think we just gotta have the conversation. And, you know, when I get in touch with you in regards to the hemp grow, the hemp numbers that you've requested, the opportunity for our economic development to discuss why they haven't contacted you, and the financials on the wild rice, I think that'd be a great opportunity to have a larger discussion.
And you also have to remember that we compete against that patty rice, which goes for about $2 a pound. And there are a lot of people that buy it thinking it's wild rice. And it's not coming off the lake, it's coming off a paddy. But they claim it as being wild rice.
Yeah, imagine when you send somebody to go get you wild rice and they come back with that stuff, and that's not a pleasant surprise.
It ain't from later.
I can taste the whole rice. Anyway.
You know, listening to the people, how they can't get a hold of people, I mean, that's the whole thing about accountability. Making sure people are doing their jobs, that they're answering questions, that they're returning phone calls or emails. I mean, I can't imagine how much emails you guys get. Can't imagine being told by 20,000, told by 20,000 people, you know, I mean, I don't know. I'm really thankful to hear our numbers, that we have a treasurer that can balance a checkbook. It's great, and it's great to, but it shows us how much money we have to work with. We only get profits from the casino. We don't get 100% of what money we make there, you know. So we have to work with what we have. That's why we can't give away everything, you know, for free. Still have to pay people.
We gotta hold back to keep the business running also, you know. Try to make capital improvements on our building that we have. Tough job.
And like you said, we're busy. I apologize for being on my phone this morning, but I was working with people who are for a funeral and wake. So I was helping setting up rooms. So it doesn't matter whether we're in meetings or not. And if we don't take them, they get mad at us. So I had to take them texts and get the room set up, and so that's what I was doing on my phone this morning. I just want to, because I am getting a lot of texts about being on my phone for this morning at the meeting, but I'm just explaining, I was doing on business on my phone right during the meeting. I'm sorry about that, and I apologize, but it's got to be done.
I have a question. As you know, I was pretty vocal about our trip up north, our elder trip from Minneapolis to White Earth for the Elders Day up there. Are we ever going to get that back? I mean, what kind of process would we have to do to be able to do that again? I know a lot of elders down here were disappointed. So I would like to know if that is a possibility of bringing those back, and what would we have to do to get it done?
First and foremost, I think we gotta work our way out of this deficit here, you know. All the programs were asked to cut, reduce, you know, to actually make budget this year. And it's, you know, we're gonna come up, like Alan said, what is it,
$2.4 million deficit.
$2.4 million, so.
Could do it by spring.
Yeah.
Let me just say something.
I'll bet you $1.
We want to.
We'll talk after the meeting.
Look, we want to help folks. We do. We absolutely want to help our people wherever they're at, and that is an absolute priority. And you know, as we're looking, just a couple days ago, I met with the fund and work group. We're looking at ways to try to reduce this deficit. In fact, actually put us back in the black again, right? So we're operating at a positive ratio. And so When that happens, we'll be in touch with folks, and I think we need to have those conversations, we do. But first, these next 4 months for White Earth is going to be crucial. I mean, this is going to be crucial. We're looking at October 1, 2019 already. And what are we going to do to keep the doors open? And I'm telling you, things are looking good. Things are looking very bright. I think through the Healthy Homes resolution that I discussed earlier in my financial report, that's going to cover about $2 million of that. I'm hoping it will cover about $2 million of that $2.4 million deficit. All right. Another cost saving that we're looking at is the $400,000. So we've targeted, I think we said we're looking at 5 budget line items. I'm aggressively figuring out what we can do to get foundations or grants to pay for that. So I'm pretty sure we can find $400,000 to free up those dollars. And so every dollar we can free up in the general fund and put it on a grant, that's going to make things better for everyone. And I think we can do it. I really think we can do it in the next 4 months. And so maybe the next time when we have this discussion at our next quarterly meeting, we'll have a better outlook on what's going to happen this time next year. I feel very positive. I feel very positive looking at next year.
That we may be able to bring back our other trips, is that what you're saying? Or-
That, yes, that, and a lot of other
I want more
things.
clarity. I mean, this, putting more money in the budget and stuff is great. I'm all for it. I'm glad you guys are working well at it. But my thing is more of a personal urban thing.
Yeah. So the short answer is yes. And we need to figure out this $2.4 million deficit, and I feel very positive that we will.
So then going forward, if this does happen, that we get to go, what would be the policy we would have to take to do it? I mean, are we to write a formal letter? Are we to?
Yes, absolutely. I think that's an appropriate, reasonable.
So even if we know it's not gonna happen in January, we could still write a proposed letter and just keep submitting these to you till you either get sick of hearing from us or the money comes in. Is that how you wanna work this?
Yes.
Okay. Let's get on it, Don.
I would like to see a member from the tribal council to come down and sit and be a part of our urban council. And I would like to know if you will be revisiting the urban council soon.
Details.
Raymond will be there now.
Or if you'll all take turns coming down so we can get to know you. I mean, that would be even more great, so instead of just only one person.
Welcome to you.
But I think it's really important to continue to build that relationship because there's been such a separation of our community, White Earth members from on the res to urban areas.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Anybody else?
Can I say one more thing as a pipe carrier? As a pipe carrier and an eagle bone whistler and someone who follows the patterns of the grandfathers of the moon and the sun, people have not realized, but for the last 11 months, the lunar moon cycle has changed from 28 days a month to 30 days a month. And this has not happened in our history for 1,000 years.
That's true.
And so if you are feeling off or off kilter, it's because of the strange pattern of what's going on in the sun. And find your midday lodge elders to explain what's going down right now, because it is pivotal right now with what is going down.
Oh, we good.
Yeah, we good. With that, you'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion, Chair.
Motion by Raymond, do I have a second?
Yes.
Second by Umsey, all those in favor say
Aye.
aye. Those opposed, meeting is adjourned.
Oh, we good.
Cheryl, Dave,
Thank you.